True transformation happens when you shift your focus from what's in it for me to how may I serve. Dr. Wayne Dyer emphasizes that the key to living a fulfilled life is moving from ego-driven ambition to a deeper sense of meaning and purpose. Without making this shift, people remain trapped in cycles of scarcity, self-centeredness, and unfulfilled desires, unable to tap into the abundance that surrounds them. In this radio show, Dyer shares how serving others, aligning with higher energy, and embracing life's challenges can unlock profound spiritual growth. He highlights the transformative power of his film, Ambition to Meaning, which inspires viewers to live with purpose and rise above societal programming. Through his wisdom, he challenges listeners to see life setbacks as opportunities for divine carving, shaping them into their highest potential. The universe responds to service with abundance, and the more we uplift others, the more our lives overflow with peace, joy, and fulfillment. Special thanks to Hay House for partnering with us to release this content exclusively on our YouTube channel. And if you make it all the way to the end of the video, leave a hashtag Believe in the comments below so I can celebrate with you. Believe.
Welcome, Dr. Dyer.
Thank you, Emily.
How are you today?
This? You ran a half marathon yesterday. What's going on with you?
I did, and you popped into my head. I was thinking of your story where you talked about an ambition to meaning, where you had the miraculous healing with your knee.
Absolutely. So, and you're having a few knee problems?
I am.
Well, tomorrow I have a seminar from 2 to 4 at Hawaii time. I think it's 4 to 6 Pacific time.
Yep, it's 4 to 6 Pacific, 7 to 9 Eastern.
I want you to get signed up, and I'm going to be talking about how to deal with how to create miracles in your life and how to move in your life from ambition and ego and all the things that we're taught early in our lives into the meaning phase of our life, where every day and every step that we take reflects a higher purpose and a higher consciousness and a place that brings us to peace and joy and ultimate masterful kinds of healings where you just begin to access divine guidance from any place that it's out there. So I'm very excited about that. You said you were watching the film, is that right?
I was. It's an awesome film. Meaning? A lot of information in there.
Yeah. I gave it to one of my most skeptical friends in the world, a guy who thinks that all of this airy-fairy stuff is just for weirdos and tree huggers and people, And he's a high-powered attorney who's always in courts and all of that. And I had him watch the film over the weekend, and he called me, and he just said, I can't use the exact word he used on the air, but he said, it is awesome. And he was deeply, deeply and profoundly touched by it. So
well, that must be amazing for you to hear from people like that.
Well, it is, because it's a new way of reaching people. This, something like 10% of the people buy like 90% of all the books that are sold in the United States. So that means there's about a large number of people, something like 90% of the population, that don't buy books and don't read books and don't even listen to CDs or Hay House radio and things like that. But they do go to movies. And so we've put out this movie that is called Ambition to Meaning, which has some great stars in it, Portia de Rossi and Michael DeLuise and Shannon Sturgis and and Ed Kirk, people who've been around the acting business for a long time, and they agreed to be a part of this of this film, which is really sort of a way to get the message across that there's a deeper and a higher purpose to all of our lives, without having me just lecture about it and just talk about it and ram it down people's throats, by doing it through the medium of storytelling.
Right, and actually a bunch of us here at Hay House had gone to your premiere in LA, and I remember a few moments where people in the audience stood up and they were talking about how they were part of the MTV generation.
Right.
They had never read any of your books, but here they were, and they were really just touched by the movie.
Yeah, the movie seems to be touching people all over, and that was my objective in doing the film, because I would like to see everyone in America who ever goes to movies ultimately own a copy of this film. I think it can touch people in a deeply profound way. And make an impact almost instantaneously, especially to put people in touch with the idea that there's more to the life that they are living than what has been programmed for them by people outside of them. And I think that's a very, very important lesson and something that, well, great. Do we have anybody on the line today?
We do. Are you ready to go to some callers?
I'm ready as soon as you are.
Okay. Let's go to Tanya on line 1. Hi, Tanya. What's your question for Dr. Dyer?
Hi.
Hi, Tanya.
How are you today?
I'm great. Where are you?
Dallas, Texas.
Oh, great. Great.
My
big D.
My question is, what is your first answer if somebody asks you, what would you do or say, what's the biggest difference you can make in anybody's life?
The biggest difference you can make in another person's life?
Something for, especially this year, this being a new year, a new start.
I think probably the best thing that any of us can do for other people's lives is to model what it is, that we would like other people to be able to achieve for themselves, to be a human being who is walking the talk. I call it living the virtues, and I'll talk about that again tomorrow in the seminar, and I talk about that quite a bit in the film. And I think with the new president, with President Obama, I think a big emphasis that he is placing out there. And I remember this from when I was in my early 20s when President Kennedy was inaugurated. There was this whole new start of the Peace Corps, for example, and people that I knew, friends of mine and so on. I was in the military, but there were friends of mine who were signing up, and they were going around the world, and they were going into villages in Uganda, or they were going into the inner cities in the United States, and looking at people who didn't have as many things as so many of us, the rest of us have. And the emphasis was on volunteering and serving and reaching out and getting your thoughts and your attention off of what's in it for me and how much can I get and who can I defeat and how much better am I than everybody else and how much stuff have I accumulated and how many awards do I talk about and how much do I always speak about myself and so on. And shifting, making that shift. And the shift is away from being so self-centered and so ego-driven into reaching out, asking the question, how may I serve? Is there anything that I can do for somebody else? Becoming volunteers. Because there's nothing in this world that makes a person feel better and feel more God-realized and more on purpose when you're off of what's in it for me and on to how may I serve. And I think the interesting thing about that, and that's one of the reasons that I did the film, is that when you put your attention off of, and you take the attention off of yourself and you put it on how may I serve, it's almost as if you align with something in the universe that is doing the very same thing. And instead of you saying, when you say to the universe, give me, or when you say to God, give me, I need more, it's almost as if you align with that kind of an energy, and the universe responds back to you with more of, you give me, and you always feel under pressure. You always feel like you're never arriving. But when you say to the universe, when you say to God, when you say to everything and everyone that's out there, how may I serve? It's almost as if the universe turns around and responds back with, how may I serve you? How may I serve you? And all the things that you used to chase after and try to get a hold of and worry about whether you're going to have enough of them and so on, all of those things seem to just dissolve, and the universe begins to say, how may I serve you? And the more you serve others, the more it serves you, and the more that arrives in your life. You don't have to chase after it anymore. It's sort of chasing after you.
What I encounter a lot of, what it does very much so, to me it does, what I encounter a lot of times, though, when I offer what can I do or I do something for somebody else, I actually heard somebody say very recently that they thought I should take care of me first instead of them, and they completely put it wrong. And somebody on Hay House said, actually, what they try to put you out as, this is your greatest weakness, is actually your greatest strength.
Yeah, well, my response to that would be, that when I do reach out to other people, I am taking care of myself. That's what I'm doing. That's the thing, because what does it do? What does it do when you reach out and serve another human being in any way? All it does is it makes you feel good. And one of my teachers, Swami Muktananda in India, had an ashram, and he would ask people as they walked into the ashram, do you know the difference between good and God? And when they would stop and they'd say, what? And he'd say, and he'd just make a finger with, he'd make a circle with his finger and his thumb, which is zero. It's like, meaning there's one little zero, one little O. And that the answer is, there is no difference between good and God. That when you are doing something good, I mean, the opening lines of the Old Testament say, in the beginning God created heaven and earth, and all that God created, I think it's line 31, and all that God created was good, which means that God and good are one. So that feeling good and doing good and reaching out in that sense is really feeling God. And when you feel God within you, when you feel internally, when you feel the presence of a divine assistance or guidance, you're totally, completely taking care of yourself. You're making yourself feel good by reaching out and extending it to others. So that would be my answer to it at all. But the other thing I would always say is, even if people do say that back to you, I always say, don't complain and don't explain. You don't have to explain. You know what you're doing. And the more of that you do, the more that seems to come into your life. That's just always worked for me. I don't know if it's true for everyone. Okay?
It makes very much sense to me.
Yeah. Have you seen the movie?
No, I have not.
Well, you must watch it. I encourage you to do so. Ambition to Meaning. I'd be very interested in your comments.
I have watched the Hay House over and over again. The Louis C.K. movie that you're in, yes.
Oh,
and
right.
What I did is I've bought more copies, and I've given them away to other friends and people that I thought needed them to just kickstart their thinking and get them in a different place.
Uh-huh.
Well, you might just have to do the same with Ambition and Meaning, Rose.
Right.
Tanya.
I probably do.
Thanks. God bless you, Tanya. Namaste.
Thanks, Tanya. And it looks like Rose on line 6 from Idaho actually has some thoughts about the movie. Hi, Rose.
Rose.
Hi. What an
rose
awesome day.
By any other name is still a rose, isn't it? What are you doing in Idaho?
Oh, man. I'm listening to the show, and my heart's just racing, and just listening to the previous caller that she hasn't seen the movie. Oh, my gosh. What a blessing. You're giving it to her for free to see it. She is moved beyond belief.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah. Well, so you saw it. Tell me what you think. I'm so excited. I'm a movie star. Give me some
my gosh.
feedback.
You were phenomenal. Let's get you an Emmy.
Did your dog hear it, too? Did your dog watch it, too?
The dogs are very excited.
Let's get you an Emmy. Well, my husband and I saw it this weekend, and we thought it was phenomenal. It deeply moved us. I was in tears in some parts of it. And when we were done watching, we both looked at one another and just said, wow. It was just amazing. We felt touched. It's like we feel like we can conquer the world now with that information.
Oh, wow. What a great endorsement. That's so wonderful. You know, that's kind of the reaction I get from almost everyone who watches it. It's that, you know, a lot of people, in fact, Tom, my friend, the attorney that I was talking about at the opening of the show, who's very skeptical about everything and just thinks that this is all weirdo stuff, you know, and he's into the bottom line and so on. He was actually in tears when he was talking to me about it. He said, I just couldn't believe that it could touch me. What characters and what is it in the film that touched you the way you're speaking about it? And especially your husband, I'm interested.
Well, for me, I mean, the entire movie did. However, the moment when she was in the bathroom.
Yeah.
And I was just in tears, like, well, I don't want to give away the movie, but...
Right, no, that's okay.
But when she was in the bathroom, in a sense of she felt like she couldn't be herself, like she was trapped. And just
we have to point out that she wasn't in the bathroom going to the bathroom.
No, pardon me.
Right. She was sitting on the floor in there, but she was someone who had always wanted to, you know, have a mission in her life, but had always avoided it. And she was all by herself and going through. And you know, the way the director of this film was so wonderful. The way that they took and they could show her actually going through in her mind the painting and so on.
Yes.
But and then coming back to it, it was
That was just I was weeping. I mean, that was one of the parts.
Well, that's so great. Well,
for my husband, it was just the sense of the whole one part of the movie where you're talking about the 4 questions for the man and the top number 1, you know, and then you went down the 4, and he was just like, it's true. That's how, you know, at one point in his life he did think that. Now he doesn't. He's on the other side.
Oh, that's so great.
It was just so moving.
We have to pull away. How did you get the film? How did you know about it?
Well, I've been listening to Hay House for a little bit, and I went to Hay House, and
you ordered it on Hay House Radio?
I ordered it,
and
I got the package deal with I've been doing the meditation, too.
Oh, that's great. We have to go. We're on a break. Thanks, Rose. God bless you. I love you.
And we'll be right back in a few minutes. And welcome back to Dr. Wayne Dyer's Inspiration. I'm Emily Manning, sitting in for Summer McStravick today, and Dr. Dyer.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm back.
You're back.
I'm all excited about that movie review. That's just so exciting to.
Yeah,
totally. When you do something that you've never done before in your life, and you decide to go into, this whole business of putting out a film and acting and working with top people and great directors and so on, and you just, while you're doing it, you have no idea what the reaction is going to be. It's just so wonderful.
It's a leap of faith. Yeah.
It is. Yeah. And because when I watch it, I just think it's just so wonderful. I mean, it's just so beautifully touching, and almost, it almost makes me sob myself when I watch it. And to hear those kind of reactions, it's really wonderful.
And it looks like Sandy on line 5 from Chicago actually has a question about, when you find your life purpose or when you find what you want to do, how do you go about doing that? So hi, Sandy.
Hi, how are you?
Great.
I'm so
how are you,
excited.
Sandy?
I finally get to talk to you. I've been listening to you for years. I think
really?
You are awesome. Yes.
Thank you.
I
think you're awesome, too.
You have brought me through some things that I never thought I could do, and I'm so grateful to have this opportunity to say thank you.
Oh, what did you get brought through? What couldn't you do that you can do now?
What couldn't I do? No matter what, okay? It's like, no matter what happens, I can handle it. I know that there's a force greater than I am that can take me through no matter what challenge. I have given myself and volunteered as much as I can, and I am so happy. And you know what? I don't need anything anymore. It just sounds so crazy. And
no, it doesn't. Not to me. It sounds wonderful.
Right.
It's such a peaceful place to believe. I always love Byron. In fact, in the film, I mentioned Byron Katie's line where she says the belief that you need what you don't have is a definition of insanity, because you've already proven that you don't need it. You're there. You're breathing. You're alive. You're handling it. And the filling yourself with the idea that I can't be happy unless something else happens or unless I get something else is a form of insanity, because you know what it is? It's a way of using your mind to constantly be thinking about something else, about trying to get someplace else, about getting a hold of getting more of what I have. And you almost get programmed into that, so that no matter what comes your way, you're always thinking, but I have to have more. I have to do something else. And when you get to this place that you're talking about, Lao Tzu called this place that you are speaking about, Sandy, he called it contentment. Where you just get to a place where you're content, where, whatever comes your way, it's okay. Wouldn't that be great if the whole country woke up to that and said, everybody's talking about how terrible the economic crisis is, and and over again you keep hearing people say it's going to get worse before it gets better, and, things are going to be terrible and all. Imagine if the whole country just decided that we're fine. That we're absolutely fine, and that we're going to continue to work, and we're going to continue to go out and do, and we're not going to be filled with fear and worry and anxiety. And if everyone in the whole country thought that way, we would just go about our business and run our lives that way, instead of with this constant worrying about something. But anyway, back to what you were saying. Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm in this place now. Okay, so just ride with me here. I'm in this place, sweetie. And I'm at peace, and I'm not worried about the economy, about my job, about any of that, because I know what will be. And I am provided for in that. Well, I have all this negativity around me, all right? And I want to continue to be happy, to continue to do all this, and sometimes it just aggravates me how people, I don't know if they can't stand that I'm at peace. I don't know what. And it's just like, how do you do what you react? Well, when I was on hold, I think the answer might come to me when it comes to my immediate family. And because I was waiting on hold, and I guess Rose was speaking ahead of me. And she saw that movie, so I'm thinking maybe what I should do is go get that movie and play it for my family.
I definitely think you should.
You know what? And I'm thinking, see, I'm the type of person, I'm not going to say, well, I'm not going to throw all this on you. about my beliefs and that.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel that living by example, people should pick up on that. And they don't always do that, and they may not know where I'm coming from. So that's why I'm thinking that maybe if they see this movie, and I don't even know what this movie is about, but it sounds like it might be what I believe in dealing with and who I am, and maybe this will enlighten them around me.
Yeah, well, that was the purpose of the movie. The movie's called Ambition to Meaning, and it's really, and we're changing the title, by the way, and because I'm doing a new PBS special. I've already recorded it.
Oh, I love those.
In June. Yeah, it's called Excuses Be Gone, and we talk about the film in there. We're going to call the film, as of May, it's going to be changed to The Shift, and this is what happens in our life when we go through a shift from ambition, that is from ego development and what's in it for me and how much can I get and who can I defeat and all of that stuff, to meaning. What is that shift like and what happens when you make that shift and so on. But, I want to ask you a question. I want to remind because what you're speaking about is the negativity around you.
Correct.
And it's very interesting because it's like you have to really understand a little bit about quantum physics and energy and how energy works. That lower energy, that is, and every thought that we have, there's a book called Power versus Force that many people have heard me talk about. David Hawkins, he's a medical doctor who's written it about the energy component of different kinds of thoughts. Like the thought of shame, for example, is a very, very low energy, and if you do kinesiology tests on someone thinking a shameful thought, you'll find that their muscles go very weak when they think that. Whereas a thought of kindness or a thought of forgiveness or a thought of unconditional love, which are very, very high thoughts, are different energy, and they produce a different result in the body. So that when we're talking about low energy, negative energy, on the Hawkins scale, it's anything that's below 200. Any of these kind of shame, revenge, anger, hatred, bitterness, skepticism, all of these kinds of thoughts, they are an energy. Most people think, and this is really crucial, Sandy, most people think that if you're of high energy and a person of low energy is around you, that they will drag you down, that low energy will bring you down. But scientifically and physically, and what I'm speaking about here spiritually, that's just not true. Let's just say you're in a high energy place, a place of contentment, a place of peace, what you described for yourself, and you encounter people with low energy. And you said something that's very revealing. You said, it makes me very upset or it makes me very angry when I run into that. Now, what has happened there is that you have gone from, in your energy component of peace and kindness and happiness and joy and contentment and all that you are experiencing, and then you encounter this negativity, and instead of staying where you are, which will elevate lower energy, what you do is you retreat to their energy level. So you go down by getting angry at somebody for being angry at you, like if you're around a depressed person, if you get depressed when you're around a depressed person, it isn't that the depressed person made you come down, it's that you joined them in their energy, and now you've multiplied the amount of depression that you're experiencing, or the amount of anger, and they say of the highest spiritual people, like Jesus, for example, that when Jesus would go into a village, just his presence in the village, because of the energy at which he lived, would be enough to elevate the energy of everyone in the community, or in wherever he would be. You've heard people say, well, don't be a Pollyanna, right? You've heard this over and over. What is a Pollyanna? Well, Pollyanna was a little girl who lived in a town, and everybody was gloom and everybody was down, and she comes to town, and as a result of her enthusiasm and her excitement, you remember this? Everybody starts feeling better, and all, because when you've got to. What you have to do when you're around that low negative energy, instead of saying they're bring me down, is reinforce the importance of not joining that kind of energy and presenting that. And then by staying in that place, not explaining yourself, not complaining, not finding fault with it, but just generating and sending out more and more of the kind of energy you're speaking about, you'll suddenly see people coming up. And you know who you'll notice it first? You'll notice it with little children, and you'll notice it even with animals. Okay. Because Patanjali put it this way. He had this wonderful line. He said, when you are steadfast in your abstention of thoughts of harm, that's judgment, directed towards yourself and others, that all living creatures will cease to feel fear in your presence. You just have to stay steadfast and just watch. And so you get the negativity, and instead of joining it and going down, You hang on to that and you watch. You'll start bringing those people up, and you'll never complain and you'll never explain.
And Sandy, why don't you call back next week and tell us, how the experiment is going as far as, trying to keep your positive energy.
Okay, I will. It just so you know, it's my family. It's within them where I'm out of it, but I am picking up on that negative energy.
Yeah, because you're joining them. You're joining them.
Right, and you're right. I'm going to have to step aside and continue
Are you a mother?
to be a man. Yes, I am.
Are you a mother? Okay, so you've had babies, right?
Yeah.
You delivered them yourself?
Yeah.
I mean, they came out of you. You didn't adopt them. Okay.
Right.
So that when you had a screaming child in the middle of the night, a crying baby in the middle of the night, were you nursing your children?
No.
Okay. So if you just imagine yourself as nursing your child or feeding your child in the middle of the night, and when that child starts to get angry or upset or hurt or whatever in the middle of the night, you don't say to that child, you're making me really upset. I'm tired. Don't you realize how much I've got to do? You don't do that. What you do when you encounter that negativity from a child is you bring them close to you and you put your breast in their mouth and you bring love and higher energy to the presence of that lower energy, and you raise the energy of that child. You don't yell at the child and scream at the child. Right. And I'm 68 years old, and I always say, if you put a breast in my mouth for 20 minutes, I'm the happiest guy in the whole world. That's all that it takes. I used to say, all George Bush really needs is a breast in his mouth, and he's going to be happy.
Right.
So there you go.
All right, great.
Thanks for a great call.
Thank you. I've enjoyed it.
Are you ready for one more call, Dr. Dyer? And then we'll
Sure,
start
we can just start anyway, just to introduce someone.
Let's talk to Lee in New Zealand.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Hello?
Hi, Lee.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, how are you?
Good.
What's on your mind, my dear? We just have a minute, and then we're going to go to a break and come back to you. But what's up?
Okay. I've just recently been receiving quite a lot of amazing inspiration about my life's purpose and what I need to be doing at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And incredible things have been manifesting for it to happen. And I kind of feel like I'm at the very end stage of that. But it's...
Well, you know what? Hang on.
Right.
Hang on. Can you hang on for a few minutes? We're going to go away to a break. I hear the music playing in the background.
And we'll
we're going to talk to you into New Zealand. Okay, sweetheart? What were you saying before the break?
Well, just recently, probably over the last 6 months or so, I've just been receiving some pretty powerful inspiration about the next phase of my life, which I feel will be the majority of the rest of it. But setting up something, and the visions and the inspiration have been coming in so clearly and so strongly, and then for the most part, everything has manifested as I've seen it.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never had a problem following my inspiration. That's always been really strong within me, and for the last 20 years or so, I've been shuttled around the planet doing healing work and that sort of thing, and having to just completely trust that inspiration. Quite often leaving New Zealand with only enough money in my pocket for the next week or so, and things have always just unraveled around me to reveal, the magic, and it's always provided for me.
Right.
So it's never been an issue for me, and I've got so much trust and faith in that process. But this is, for some reason, feels a little different. I'm not quite sure why. And so this inspiration for my healing work to change, but to start working on a much grander scale in a different way, and also to create a place and a community which will have an effect on the community and transforming people's ways of thinking,
mm-hmm.
and allowing people to come together. And so everything to that degree has come together. The land has appeared, the people have all
mm-hmm.
appeared, except for the money.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm starting to get a sense of I'm running out of time now, and I'm just not quite sure
Okay, let me respond to that because we don't have too much time. And so often money is because to me money is just another term for abundance and prosperity and what exists in the universe. And so often the reason why money doesn't manifest for our dreams when everything else seems to show up is because we come from a place within us that says there's not enough or it's not there or there's lack and so on. And I would really urge you to go to a place within you where if I were to ask you, if I had more time, I would ask you the question, what if you couldn't think the thought that there's not enough money? What if you just couldn't think that, if it was impossible? And the only thing that you could think of was that the prosperity, the money, the opportunity to be able to finance what it is that is your dream is already here. It's here because creation is already complete. So all you have to do is find a way within yourself to connect to something that's already here, because we know there's money here. I mean, there's plenty of money on the planet. There's zillions and zillions of dollars and shekels and everything else. So instead of having the thought that this isn't, that I'm not manifesting, that I'm running out of time, that, which is all lack, which is all an absence of a real strong knowing within that the dream that you would like to be able to manifest is going to happen, instead and tell yourself, I can't think that thought. It's impossible for me to think a scarcity thought. And so if you couldn't think that thought, what thought would you think? And the only thought that you could think of is that it's here and I'm going to connect to it. And then you begin to act on that. And instead of thinking so big, which is what you're doing, in the Tao, it teaches us to think small. They say the Tao, great masters achieve great things by thinking small. That is, they think in terms of what can be done today, right here, right in this moment. So maybe just take a few steps in that direction. Ban yourself from having thoughts of scarcity. Just ban yourself for the next month or so, and allow yourself to move into that meaning phase, and you'll see evidence of it being able to manifest and show up for you. I can guarantee it. Okay?
Okay.
All right. God bless you. Thanks for calling from down under. I appreciate it. Namaste.
Thanks.
Thank you, Lee. Well, let's talk to Lisa on line 1, Dr. Dyer. It looks like she had an interesting quantum shift, and she's in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Aloha, Dr. Dyer.
Aloha to you, too. How are you?
Very well, thank you. I would just want to say that Life is Divine in 2009.
All right. I like that. Very good.
It's my mantra.
That's a great mantra. Where in Pennsylvania are you?
I am just outside of Philadelphia. North Wales is where I live, and I actually had the privilege of seeing you in October when you were out this way giving your seminars. So I wanted to just respond.
What is your name? Is it Lisa? Did you just write to me? Is this
Yes,
Lisa?
I did. Yes, Lisa Ballack.
Is this Lisa Ballack, B-A-L-U? I was going to call you today.
Are you
want
kidding?
to talk about, I got your letter. You had breast cancer, right?
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah, and I got the photo that you sent, and you're clear now. Is that right?
Yes, I am. So
I have your phone number on my desk to write. I'm going to call you tonight, probably, or tomorrow. But I thought I'm just going to surprise her and call her because you left your phone a beautiful letter, and you told a wonderful story in there about you went through some. You said that you if I'd have come a month earlier, I would have looked just like you, bald, just like you. You had lost your hair from
chemotherapy.
Oh my goodness! Well, you're an inspiration, and it was a beautiful letter, and you're a beautiful woman. Go ahead. I'm glad you got through.
Well, I just wanted to thank you so much for the film. It is just wonderful. The surroundings were majestic. The cinematography was perfect. It's truly Oscar-worthy, and, I would love to see it in larger venues, going to theaters nationwide, but basically what I wanted to share with you was I loved the dialogue in the film regarding the morning of your life versus the afternoon. Mm-hmm. And, that quantum moment, that quantum shift. Being diagnosed at age 29 with breast cancer is a rarity. And then, I really felt this spiritual shift taking place in my life. Mm-hmm. And it happened during my first Reiki session. And I would say that was truly my quantum moment where I had this wave come over me. And I heard this voice saying, "My child, be at peace. I am with you." And I saw a vision in my mind of a dove and a rainbow, and it just stayed. And that it just led me on this beautiful path, meeting so many wonderful people, spiritually like-minded. Mm-hmm. vibrating at those higher frequencies, more harmonious energy. And I was just curious what advice you would have for me now.
Well, I think that something like what you've been through at your age, is you have to ask yourself, you never ever say to yourself when something like this happens in your life, this is some kind of karmic payback for something I did, or it happened from a previous life. I was an axe murderer or something in my last life, and this is my payback. I don't think that the universe works that. That's not the universe that I know. That's not the God that I know. Right. What I do know is that when anything like that, especially, there's a wonderful line by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. I don't know if you know who she was, but she did a lot of things about grieving and so on. See if I can remember this. She said, if you shield the mountain from the windstorms, you'll never see the beauty of the carvings. Mm-hmm. And what this means to me is that the windstorms, the storms of our lives, the low points, the hard things, the stuff that, when we're dealing with like life-threatening kinds of things going on in our body, that they literally will help to produce the beauty of the carvings. And the beauty of the carvings is, for me, it's the opportunity to take this message that you have of how you were able to go through this kind of an experience, which so many women go through in their lives, whether it's breast cancer or any other kind of debilitating illnesses that come into their lives. And instead of focusing on me and why did this happen to me and this shouldn't have happened to me and poor me and and all of the kinds of stuff that arises out of our inclination to behave that way when it seems so unfair that someone in their 20s should be rendered ill with something that you have to heal with radiation and so on, and then begin to make the shift and to begin to see the beauty of the carvings. And the beauty of the carvings for you, Lisa, is in telling your story. What you wrote to me. You have a beautiful gift of being able to express yourself brilliantly and beautifully, and to write beautifully. I mean, your letter was just astonishing to me. I'm still sitting here a little bit shaken that you got through, because it's very hard to even get through on this show. Let alone I had your letter that I was looking at last night and your photos and saying that I was going to call you. So that for you, it seems to me that it's like, you have to take this message to the world. You have to take your experience and make that the beauty of the carvings, and then you'll see why it happened to you. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, thank you so much for your kind words and encouragement. And it just is amazing to me, Dr. Dyer, that, it was literally maybe 6 or 8 weeks before my diagnosis that I picked up your book, Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life. Mm-hmm. And then as soon as I was diagnosed, it's almost like a click went off in my head, and I was like, this makes sense. And then I had to go out and I had to buy all Louise Hay's books, and it's just like the two of you accompanying me on this journey, and I am so grateful for your wisdom, and you are a true sage, and I love your message.
Well, thank you. You're the sage, babe. You got to go within and realize that you conquered this thing within you, so that you can help others to do the same. Others who don't have the same gifts that you have, and the same same intelligence that you have, and the same inspiration that you have. And I'm so happy that the film did the film touch you in any way in terms of your dealing with what you've had to go through in the healing of your cancer?
Yes, it did. Honestly, from start to finish, I was in awe of the entire film, and I found myself crying, but they were tears of joy and happiness and relief, and just realizing with, I guess how it's a movie within a movie, truly. And
what do you think of the character Joe? The person that everybody thinks is the gardener and is the janitor.
Oh, I love that. I was excited. That
was the fourth story in there. Portia de Rossi's story, and and all of those stuff. But here's a person who spends, and throughout, if you go back and watch the film again, you'll see that he's throughout the film, all he is reaching out and serving wherever he can be, and he doesn't even need to do that. He's the owner. It's
right.
Yeah.
And what a humble man he is.
Yes, and one of the real great actors. In fact, he wrote a book. His name's Ron Mirasco. He wrote a book called Notes to an Actor. I recommend, in fact, that's where I got that quote that I just gave you from Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. You know, when you shield the mountains from the windstorms, you'll never see the beauty of the carvings. Every single thing that happens to us, especially the things that we consider falls or low points in our life, they provide us with the energy to propel ourselves to a higher place. And that's what you've done. Thank you, Lisa. I love you.
You're
beautiful.
Love you too.
I'm still going to call you. I've got your phone number. I know it starts with 215, and I'll be in touch with you soon.
Okay.
Thank you for a great call. I didn't even have to call you, isn't it? See, this is manifestation. This is how it works. I had the thought, I want to talk to Lisa, and instead of, you came to me. I think it's true. Muhammad doesn't go to the mountain. The mountain comes to Muhammad. I really am kind of liking this. Thanks, beautiful. God bless you.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Dyer. Went by so quickly.
Dr. Wayne Dyer joining us in Maui. Dr. Dyer, it's great to chat with you.
Thank you. It's good to be here. So my brother sent me, just before we take calls, I just want to read this. He sent me something that he was writing. My brother's a veteran, and he was in Vietnam. One day, a teacher asked her students to list the names of the other students in the room on 2 sheets of paper, leaving a space between each name. Then she told them to think of the nicest thing that they could say about each and every one of their classmates and to write it down. It took the remainder of the class period to finish their assignment, and as the students left the room, each one handed in the papers. That Saturday, the teacher wrote down the names of each student on a separate sheet of paper and listed what everyone else had said about that individual. On Monday, she gave each student his or her list. The entire class was smiling. Really, she heard whispered, "I never knew I meant so much to anyone, and I didn't know others liked me so much," were most of the comments. No one ever mentioned those papers in class again. She never knew if they discussed them after class or with their parents, but it didn't matter. The exercise had accomplished its purpose. The students were happy with themselves and one another. That group of students moved on. Several years later, one of the students was killed in Vietnam, and his teacher attended the funeral of that special student. She had never seen a serviceman in a military coffin before. He looked so handsome, so mature. The church was packed with his friends. One by one, those who loved him took a last walk by the coffin. The teacher was the last one to bless the coffin. As she stood there, one of the soldiers, who acted as a pallbearer, came up to her. "Were you Mark's math teacher?" he asked. She nodded yes. Then he said, "Mark talked about you a lot." After the funeral, most of Mark's former classmates went together for a luncheon. Mark's mother and father were there, obviously waiting to speak with the teacher. "We want to show you something," his father said, taking a wallet out of his pocket. "They found this on Mark when he was killed. We thought you might recognize it." Opening the billfold, he carefully removed 2 worn pieces of notebook paper that had obviously been taped, folded, and refolded many times. The teacher knew without looking that the papers were the ones on which she had listed all the things each of Mark's classmates had said about him. "Thank you so much for doing that," Mark's mother said. As you can see, Mark treasured it. All of Mark's former classmates started to gather around. Charlie smiled rather sheepishly and said, "I still have my list. It's in the top drawer of my desk at home." Chuck's wife said, "Chuck asked me to put this in our wedding album." "I have mine too," Marilyn said. "It's in my diary." Then Vicky, another classmate, reached into her pocketbook, took out her wallet, and showed her worn and frazzled list to the group. "I carry this with me at all times," Vicky said. And without batting an eyelash, she continued, "I think we all saved our lists." That's when the teacher finally sat down and cried. She cried for Mark and for all his friends that would never see him again. The density of people in society is so thick that we forget that life will end one day, and we don't know when that day will be. So please tell the people you love and care for that they are special and important. Tell them before it's too late. I just thought that was such a beautiful message.
Wow, that is
and
beautiful.
What a wonderful thing to do in a classroom, because I remember years ago I came across some research in some of my reading, and I jotted it down, and I used this in a lot of my earlier talks, that there's a tribe in the northern part of South Africa where whenever anybody in the tribe gets out of line, misbehaves, starts acting crazy, does things that are inappropriate, whatever it might be, gets angry, lashes out at people, whatever, that everybody in the tribe would gather around and they would put the person in the middle of the circle. And everybody in the circle and everybody in the tribe would go around and say to this recalcitrant, troublemaking person sitting in the center what they liked about him, what they loved about him. And rather than all of them pointing out all the things they didn't like and the things that were wrong, they just consistently would tell them how wonderful they are, how much they were treasured, what they liked about them, and so on. And that would end the problem. And they had almost no disciplinary problems in this particular tribe because the focus was always on looking at what you like, looking at what's positive, instead of continuously looking out from behind your eyeballs and seeing people the way you think they should be, or seeing, and expecting the world to be different than it really is. And sending love and appreciation to people. That story, I don't know if it's a true story or if it's apocryphal. My brother sent it to me, but I think it's got a lot of implications. And you school teachers out there who might be listening, what a wonderful idea to do in a classroom, especially in a classroom where everybody knows each other, to let them hear the things that people don't say enough about how much they're loved and how much they're treasured and so on.
I love
and
that
I learned
story.
this lesson. Yeah, I learned this lesson personally years ago with one of my children who was having some issues with prescription drugs. And what I did, I don't know how long ago this was, 20-some years ago, I called a family meeting, and I had everybody in the family tell this person, one of my children, how upset it made them to see her behaving in these ways, and the impact that it had on them, and the impact that it had on mom and on dad and on the family and so on. And each person, as they would go around, would be saying, negative things to this person and just reinforcing perhaps the reasons why these prescription drugs were being used in the first place. And it was a very important lesson for me to learn that if I were to do that over, and I did do it over later, is to put that same person in the room, and instead of having everybody point out what you don't like and what's wrong and what's missing and how you're hurting everybody else and so on, but instead to say to that person, have each person talk about all the things about them that they love, the things that they treasure, that they remember about them. So that came out of my own learning experience, and I just thought I wanted to share that here this morning, because so often, so many of the calls that we take here on the radio show are a reflection of the one thing that I think everybody out there wants. Everybody wants to know that they are loved. And that story about him carrying that around with him for his whole life, it's like whenever he would have any doubts about that, he would open that little piece of paper that he carried and be reminded about how valuable he is, how loved he is, how terrific he is. We all need to know that. And I think if we did that, not only could we change the consciousness in our families, but we could change it in our communities, in our country, which God knows needs a lot of bringing together. We become the divided states of America instead of the United States of America. And the same thing globally and in the world, because with what's going on in Gaza today and what's, with planes being shot down out of the air, and we've got to look within and find, in our neighbors and in our people, especially the ones that annoy us, what about them that we love rather than what about them that we hate. It's a good way to focus in our life. As I say in my stationery, loving people live in a loving world, and hostile people live in a hostile world. And it's the same world. It's the same world. Just decide what kind of person you're going to be. St. John of the Cross, who was a 16th century Spanish mystic and a saint in the Catholic Church, was the person who really coined the term the dark night of the soul. Said that he had one quote that I've always remembered. He said, "Where there is no love, put love, and you will find love." And I think that really speaks to compassion. And if you really want to find love, just look where there is no love, particularly, in some of the kinds of things that are going on in the world today, and put love there, and then you will find love. And in your daily relationships with each other, it's a good lesson. Just put some love there, and guess what? That's exactly what you'll see coming back to you.
And that was St. John of the Cross?
Yeah, St. John of the Cross. Yeah, he was a Spanish mystic. He spent a lot of his years in prison. I read a whole biography of him not too long ago. Yeah, beautiful man, like a monk. Yeah,
I love that ancient wisdom.
Yes, it's pretty modern too.
Yeah, and it still fits.
Right.
So you ready to share with some people
I am.
here?
Let's see who's out there. Who would like to talk to me this morning?
Well, this is a cool name, so I'd like to start with her, Leilani.
Okay.
Leilani in Denver.
That's a very common name here in Maui.
Is it?
Yeah, and there's a restaurant about 700 yards from where I live called Leilani's here on Maui. So you hear a lot of Hawaiian people, but I'll bet you this lady has some Hawaiian background.
Are you, Leilani? Welcome to the show. Are you from Hawaii?
Aloha. No, I was not born in Hawaii, but I spent some time on the Big Island.
Oh, well,
I'm a little nervous, Dr. Dyer. Thank you. I woke up this morning and then I said, I'm going to talk to Dr. Dyer today, and it's happening.
And it's happening. Good for you. It's because of that name of yours, that Leilani. How did you get that name? How come your mom named you Leilani?
It means heavenly flower, and they like this song called Sweet Leilani.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there you go. Well, great. Okay, heavenly flower, what's on your mind, my dear?
Well, a couple things. Dr. Dyer, I'm involved with the Crystal Water Healing Project, and I want to send you some free crystals to put in the oceans on September 21st.
Okay.
And we just say a chant. It's a global project, aqualuz.org. And we are
what is it? Say it again. Say it slower so we know. Aqua?
AQUA, luz, LUZ.org. We're having a global water healing event on September 21st, and we're passing around crystals around the globe. And you infuse the crystal with your light and love and place it in the water.
I love that. What a nice idea.
Okay. And I called you because I had the merit to hear you at I Can Do It in Denver, and that event changed my life.
How so?
Well, because your story about how everything in your life has lined up and how you've taken the pain of your childhood and that has brought you light.
Yeah,
and
I can see clearly now.
I believe my Dharma involves traveling. I'm a world traveler and I love it so much. And helping people. So I envision traveling the world and helping women and children heal from trauma. But I'm just me. I don't have a family. I'm just this person with this big dream, and I'd like your guidance on how to manifest it.
Well, you don't need my guidance. Every desire that we have is placed there by an intelligence, the same intelligence that, I'm looking out my window right now at all these palm trees, and I'm looking over to and I see birds just flitting by here, building a nest of some kind. And I look over at the ocean, and I'll be in the ocean in a little while, and I look at all of these creatures that are down there, and there goes another bird. And whatever intelligence it is that is moving everything in the universe also is what places these desires inside of us. It isn't something that we can do with our human personality, because our human personality has no idea even what a desire is or what a thought is. We are restricted to our senses, what we can touch, what we can see, what we can feel, what is physical, what has form, what has beginning, what has ends, and so on. But thoughts and desires are outside of that realm completely. You can't get a hold of a thought. How many thoughts can you put in a quart bottle? It's infinite. So whatever it is that places these desires inside of us, it's what I call our impersonality, the impersonal part of us, that which is in everything. And that placed that in there for you, Leilani. It's that burning desire is there. And it wasn't you, Leilani, when you said it, you're just me. You're not just me. That's just a belief system that you have that identifies you on the basis of what you can see with your eyes and what you can touch with your hands and what you can smell with your nose and so on. But who you are is really a piece of the divine. You have the intelligence that creates worlds deep within you. It's who you are, and it placed that in there. This whole crystal project and the things that you want to do and the traveling, and helping people, women, and so on. All you have to do is not let yourself get distracted from this intelligence that was placed in there. You have to remind yourself, why do I have such a desire to do this? Where does this come from? And then you stop yourself and say, well, the answer to that isn't going to be found in my human self. It's going to be found in my spiritual self. So I have to just let go of that and just trust that whatever it is that placed it in there for me, and I can't let it go. And it's like, I call it your excitement. You get so excited about this. The reason that you're excited about it is because you're aligned with your Dharma. You're aligned with what it is that you came into this world to be. That's why it feels good, because feeling good and feeling God are exactly the same thing. There's zero difference between good and God, 1-0. So now you trust in that and you say, okay, this wasn't me that placed this in here. And so I'm going to allow myself to surrender to it. And I'm going to trust that whatever intelligence it is that placed that in there for me is also going to place next to me or within my grasp all of the tools and everything that I need to be able to fulfill it and to actualize it. And this is what I Can See Clearly is about. Now you have to move into the ladder that I've spoken about so many times here on the show, that Rumi said that when we are born, a ladder is placed before us to help us to escape from this world. That is, to escape from the belief that our senses are the things that are our reality. So now you have these rungs on this ladder. And the rungs on the ladder are things that I call willingness. Like, how willing are you to do whatever it takes to align your behavior with this burning desire that has been placed inside of you? You know, and if you have anything on your unwilling list, well, I'm not willing to do this, and I can't afford that, and it means I might have to move here, and I might have to change this relationship, or I might have to change jobs, or I might have to go to, you know, whatever it might be. If you read I Can See Clearly Now, you are listening to a man who was always willing to do whatever it took to fulfill that Dharma, to climb that rung on the ladder, to help me to escape from this physical world and move into the world of spirit, where all things are possible. You know, with God, all things are possible. And as I always ask my audience now, what does that leave out? So willingness and determination is another rung on that ladder, and compassion that Diane mentioned earlier is on that ladder, and fearlessness, like how many times do I let my fears that I might fail, fears that I won't have enough money, fears that other people won't approve of me, letting go all of that, because the same force that is growing your fingernails every single night, independent of your opinion about it, no matter how much you may say to yourself tonight when you go to bed, I'm not going to have these fingernails grow. I'm tired of them growing, and I got to cut them all the time and color them. I'm going to stop it. There's a force that is greater than your physical self that just grows your fingernails. And that's the same force that placed that desire in you. And now you move to the ultimate on the ladder. You say, okay, I'm willing. That's why I wrote I Can See Clearly Now, to let people see that when you come to a fork in the road and you're not sure which way to turn and you trust your intuition, you'll be guided. You'll be guided by what inside of you is just what I call your excitement, but it's really your alignment with the universal source. It's what Abraham calls the law of attraction. And that's how you do it, my dear, until you ultimately get to the top of the ladder, where you look around yourself and you say, you know, I'm really not here as a human being at all, having a spiritual experience. My true essence, who I am as a human being, is I am really a spiritual being. I'm an infinite spiritual being, having a very temporary human experience. And I'm going to trust in that and live from that place. So now I'm going to start doing what I wrote about in Wishes Fulfilled. I'm going to assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. I'm going to feel what it feels like to be doing this thing that you've described to me, not as something that I'm going to do if everything works out, but as an already accomplished fact, you know, in your mind. And then you begin to act in that way, and you start to align with all of the forces that make everything happen in the world. And that's my rant.
Beautiful.
Makes sense.
I wish you were my father. You're so amazing.
Well, I am your father. You know, we're all each other's children and all each other's brothers and sisters. We're truly the same intelligence that created you, that brought you into this world, brought me into this world. We originated from the same place. There's only one source. There's only one.
Beautiful. Is there any way I can send you? I have a crystal that actually takes toxins out of the water called shungite. And I'd love to send you some. How do I just wait and talk to the people?
No, here's what you do. When you hang up, what we're going to do is you leave your address, and we're going to send you a brand new book that was written by my daughter, Serena, and myself, called Don't Die, with your music still inside of you. And also my other daughter's CD, which is called Letting Go. We're going to send you both of those as a gift to everyone that calls in today. And the person that takes down the address will give you my address here on Hawaii, and then you can just mail it to me directly right here on Maui.
I love you, Dr. Dyer. Thank you for being a light in the world. Aloha.
Thank you so much. Aloha. God bless you. Namaste.
God bless. Namaste.
And we'll get that out to Leilani, or I'll get her information and send the address because I
give her my address as well. Yeah, I want to get the crystals. I want my water purified.
That's great.
Water is such a big thing. I mean, she was talking. I would like to have gone into that because someday I'd like to do a show on water. As I've told you before, I do an ayahuasca ceremony about once a month now, and I'll go into that maybe sometime as well. But one of the lectures that was given in the middle of that ceremony, the last time I was there about a month ago, was a talk on water. It was a gratitude for water. And, you know, when I did the Tao, and I was a Taoist for a year in 2005, when I wrote Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life, based on the Tao Te Ching, 27 verses in the Tao mention water and what we have to learn from it, and how it's, the essence of it. And this talk that was given and these songs that were sung as a tribute to water, and just being in it, it's like gratitude is one of the big themes in my life these days. In my talks, I now thank my audience very often for all the wonderful things that have come into my life, because they've decided that I would be someone whose books they would buy, or whose lectures they would listen to, or whose lectures they would pay to come and hear. And I'm in that state of gratitude. And I think water is one of the things, and air and fire, and these kind of things that we just simply take for granted. And then our livers, we should have Liver Appreciation Day, every single day, because without that liver, there's not many breaths that you're going to take. And water is one of the things that I feel very strongly about, that it's being contaminated in our world.
Well, it's certainly an important issue around the world, and something, you're right, we do take it for granted, here in the States. We're a little more aware, I think, in Southern California, because we're drying up here and we have no water.
And then on the East Coast, we're in floods. And I've often given this metaphor. I don't know if I've done it on the radio show or not, but I will since it's come up. It's like a balance. We're just out of balance. And consciousness, we know that our consciousness impacts everything in our environment. I was looking at some studies of the impact that our thoughts have on plants. When you're around plants, and plants know that you're someone who doesn't respect them or has got hate in your heart, they close up and so on. And when you come at plants with love and so on, we know that our consciousness impacts simple things like plants and the animals, and of course each other as well. And if our consciousness impacts the environment, and our environment is really out of whack, it seems to me these days. So many floods and so many fires. There's a huge fire up in the West Coast, up in Washington, that's out of control. And then on the East Coast, we got a country that is divided, the divided states of America on one coast. And what is happening physically in our planet is that we're so out of balance that we're on one hand, we're all the way with water, all the way to the left, there is no water, it's drought. And on the other hand of the country, we have so much of it that it's drowning us. And that there's some connection in there somewhere between, if we know that the thoughts that we have impact our plants around us, certainly we know that collectively, if enough of us have thoughts of division and hatred and what we don't like about each other, that collectively is going to impact everything in our culture. And so we've really got to get back to a place where we're thinking and living and loving as one, rather than in a divided way. Yeah.
So true. We're all connected in that universal field, right?
Yes, we certainly are.
So where should we go next?
That was a long rant this morning. That was my coffee.
But it's good when you get on a roll. It's always something good.
I like it myself. I go back and say, that was brilliant. Who said that?
Right.
Was that me?
Write it down.
Right.
So let's go to Amy, and she's on line 3. And Amy, I know people probably say Missouri. It's Missouri or Missouri? Well, how do you say it?
I say Missouri.
Okay.
It's the show me state. It's the show me state.
It is the show me state.
Right.
Dr. Dyer, I have to say thank you for taking my call. Listening to you, I'm not even sure why I called, except for to say, first of all, the story you shared about the teacher.
Isn't that great?
My third grade teacher did that.
Really? Tell me about it.
I still have those. What she did was we had a student of the week every week, and we would sit down, and the child would sit in the front, and she would go student by student and write down something nice about that student that the other classmates shared, and it would hang on the wall for the entire week. And so I actually got to do it twice that year because we ran out of students, and it's something that I kept forever. I still have them.
Now see, what motivated me to write, I can see clearly now. I don't know. Have you read that? Have you had a chance to read that yet?
No, I have not.
Make a note, Diane. We're going to send her a copy of that, okay? She's the one person left in the world who hasn't read it.
Send it out.
But in the writing of that, I was really motivated to write that, just to let people know that feeling, that it was motivated. I actually decided to write it. I was reading a book called To Know We Are Loved by Rashad Field, and that's F-E-I-L-D. For some reason, he's a Sufi. And he said that it's the one thing that all of us just want to have in our lives. If this is taken care of, all of the other things that we call problems dissolve right away. And that's just to know that we are loved. And imagine, you said as a third grader, that was like many, many years ago for you, and you probably have carried that thing around or you've referred back to it, and it's just a confirmation that, hey, I'm not only loved by my fellow students and my family and all of that, but I'm loved by a divine intelligence as well. I'm loved by whatever it is that is love. It's like Jesus said, God is love. If we came from love, then, when we have love in us, we have God in us, and we become God when we have love inside of us. Yeah, and to know that we are loved. So you carried that around with you, did you, for your lifetime?
Yes, I still have them out in my garage. They're on
Isn't
little
that
cardboard paper.
Uh-huh.
Really great.
But,
I actually wanted to be a third grade teacher because of that. That's what I was going to do with my life when I grew up.
Wow. I love that.
For a very long time. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
well, thank you. Go ahead.
My question really was, I'm at kind of a unique place in my life. I've spent a lot of time trying to energetically clear blocks from my path, and I've wanted to do a documentary for about 21 years now, and recently have been offered the opportunity to do that, but I find that as I'm supposed to be working on the storyboard and things, that I get stuck and just don't do it. And I want to do it. I'm very excited about it, and I just don't know what old patterns are coming up for me and how I can figure out what they are so that I can clear them and not lose out on this opportunity that I really want.
Okay, so the biggest blockage that you have, you've already demonstrated in your question. And that is, seriously, I mean, I'm not being critical. It's that, you can never accomplish anything unless you can first expect it of yourself. So the question I would have for you, Amy, would be, what do you expect from yourself? Now you want to do a documentary, and you know that there are going to be obstacles, and they're going to be different. There's going to be, this is going to come up, and that's going to come up, and that isn't, But have you already seen the finished product? See, when I start to write a book, for example, I'm already in the process of that. I want to share a little bit about what's happening with me in that in a future show right now, because it's just been overwhelming. I already have the completed book, a picture of it in front of me that I look at every single day. And so that'd be the first thing I would recommend, is seeing it already completed and fulfilled. If it's going to be a DVD or whatever it's going to be, however you're going to create it, get the packaging for it, even if it's going to change. See it, look at it, so that every time you look at it, you've already assumed the feeling that is emotionally inside of you, because emotions are what move this creative process, your feelings. And if you're feeling, just like what it feels like to know that you've accomplished this, if you could get that feeling now in this moment, and then what you do is you align with the universal source, the divine mind that allows everything to take place. You're aligned with it because that universal source always says yes. And so the funding will start to show up, the right people will start to show up. This is how this whole process works. It's getting past the doubt. I think the first the very first obstacle to higher consciousness is, I used to call it banishing the doubt. Shakespeare said, our doubts are our traitors. You said, I'm afraid old patterns are going to show up. That's a doubt, Instead of your mind saying, there's nothing in my past that will do anything to prevent me from fulfilling this vision that I've already seen as an accomplished fact. There is nothing that I have ever experienced that will ever allow me to interfere with it. So you're starting from a place of banishing the doubt, and then you shut down that inner dialogue. That's another obstacle to higher consciousness, is this constant inner kind of thing about this isn't going to work out, and what if it doesn't, and what if I don't, and all of the what ifs and the maybes and the hurts and the fears and so on. All of that stuff just gets rolled in there. Meantime, Maslow used to say to us that a self-actualized person is someone who never places into their imagination anything that they do not want to manifest into their real life. So they would never put a thought into them about, I'd like to do this, I'd like to really accomplish this, and I know this is something that I'm really born to do. It's a burning desire that's been placed in there by me. And then here comes all of the stuff that is going to interfere with you. And so that inner dialogue is a constant kind of This is, it's based on feeling that you don't have the ability or the desire or that you're not smart enough or that you're, whatever it might be. And all of that stuff. Whereas a self-actualized person already sees it as an accomplished fact, and just like any obstacle that shows up, they just see that as just something to get around or to, you're even grateful for those obstacles because, it's often been said that every advance that we make towards a higher spiritual place in our life is almost always preceded by a fall of some kind or another. So that all of the things that most people call obstacles and so on, to a self-actualized person, this is just another stepping stone in order to allow myself to get to this place that I've already been in my imagination. Because, Amy, the greatest gift that you were ever given from the moment that you were conceived is the gift of your imagination. You can place anything in there that you want to have in there. And there is nothing that anyone can do to take it away from you. And that everything, William Blake said that everything that now exists was once imagined. So I used to tell my kids that, crazy sentences like this, that the law of flotation was not discovered by the contemplation of the sinking of things. When the Wright brothers went, down to Kitty Hawk, they weren't contemplating the staying on the ground of things. They were contemplating the getting off the ground of things, and they wouldn't have any other thoughts into their consciousness. And that's why we have airplanes, because somebody, had that vision that was so strong inside of them that they would never allow the opposite, that is, that this isn't going to work out. I used to use that example of Thomas Edison when he was trying to invent the electric filament for the light bulb. And someone said to him, how does someone as famous as you, who's tried 25,000 different combinations, feel about failing 25,000 times? And his answer was classic. He said, I don't know what you're talking about, failure. He said, today I know 25,000 ways not to make a battery. That's what it was, a battery. So anyway,
I just heard my answer so clearly in that I am thinking about what's preventing me from doing it and not doing it.
Exactly.
That's
exactly. And you become what you think about all day long. Like I'm in the process. I'm going to write a book that, and I had made up my mind I wasn't going to write a book, any more books a couple of years ago, and now I'm working on, I've written another one I can see clearly now, and then, I'm working on another one. And it's like I am so open and I have so surrendered, and I'm so, every morning when I wake up, I woke up this morning at 5 o'clock, and I just take these 2 crystals and I put them in my hand, and I meditate for like an hour, just asking for the guidance to be able to write this book on a subject that I, truthfully don't feel knowledgeable enough. I don't feel like I know enough. And yet it's just something that it just won't go away. And a lot of it is based on this idea about burning desires that I've been speaking about, that, this impersonal self of us, and wanting to make that really clear and to take the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita and bring it all together in this final book that I feel is writing itself through me. But I never, ever allow the thought that I can't do it. I just say to myself, whatever I need will be there at the time that I need it. And I'm coming from a complete and total place of knowing that this is something that I have to fulfill before I leave this earth. That's where you have to get to, my love. That's where you have to get to. And I'm going to send you I Can See Clearly Now, and I'm going to send you Don't Die With Your Music Still In You with Serena Dyer, which is a wonderful book about what it was like to be raised around crazy people like me. And my daughter Sky singing Letting Go, singing the beautiful song that I danced with Serena to at her wedding on the 1st of July 3 weeks ago. She's already the long-term marriage, Diane. 3 weeks, they're still together.
It's going great.
And my daughter Sky sang that beautiful song.
The photos on Facebook with her are beautiful.
Oh, you saw that? Oh,
yes, of course.
Yeah. I know. I posted that because I wanted everybody to see what a beautiful bride, what a beautiful day. It was truly one of the happiest days of my life.
Yes,
so.
They are beautiful. And I have a bag that I purchased from one of your daughters that I Can Do It.
Oh, sure, Tracy, my daughter Tracy, an urban junket. Yeah, if you ever want to know about those, she makes them out of recycled plastic water bottles. I mean, they're so beautiful. Yeah, Well, thank you, Amy. Where in Missouri? Where are you from? Where in Missouri?
Nixa, Missouri. I actually work in Branson, Missouri, but 30 minutes away. So.
Yeah, that's the home of Harry Truman. I mean, Independence, Missouri.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, thank you, my dear.
Very much.
You're very welcome. Leave your address. God bless you. Thanks for a nice call.
Thank you.
That's great advice, too. A lot of people struggle with that. I'm sure that's going to help.
With what?
With just getting in their own way, some self-sabotage and those negative thought patterns.
I was swimming in a pool up in Minneapolis when I was visiting Tracy, and there was a slogan written on the wall for the swimming team. And every time I would go in one direction, I would look up, and I had my head turned that way. I would read this slogan, and I read it I swam that day for a full hour. And so I must have read it, 100 times, and it said, if you want to create something in your life, you must first be able to expect it of yourself. And I would think about that as I was swimming. I'd think, it's really just about what are my expectations for me. And if my expectations are how difficult something's going to be, it can't work out, I can't afford it, I'm not smart enough, I'm too old, whatever it might be, if those are your thoughts, that's what you expect from yourself. The universal subconscious mind aligns with that thought that you have continuously and offers you experiences that match up to it. It gives you all the things that you've said you want. So it's really shifting that around.
Right. It's a good reminder, especially for me, because I'm kind of entering into this home buying realm that I've avoided for a long time. And, so I'm just thinking, hey, the right situation will align,
but
and
the best thing,
right
Diane,
thing I'll find will be great.
I can't tell you how many letters I've had from people over the years, thousands of people, and especially about houses, people who get a vision in their imagination of what it is and what it looks like, and after they do that for a while, they can actually see it. They can see the color. They can see what the lawn looks like. They can see what the road, they can see everything about it. And then one day they look, and there it is, and it's impossible for them not to get it. That's how powerful, our ability to visualize and manifest. That's how everything happens. Everything happens from our thoughts. All right, let's see if we can get another call in this morning.
Squeeze in a few more people. Yeah. I like this one. Allie in Los Angeles. She's on line 5, and I know a lot of people feel disconnected from friends and family and would like to feel closer. So I'm sure people can relate to what Allie's going through. And welcome to the show, Allie. You're on with Dr. Wayne Dyer.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, Allie.
Hi. So, my family, I think I just basically rejected them when I was a little kid, and I moved away. I was able to manifest another home. And
How old were you, Allie?
10.
You were 10? You decided one day to leave, or?
No, I wanted before that, and then when I was 10, an opportunity arose, and I moved into a home for kids.
Okay.
And it was my choice. I got to choose, and then I was brought to another country by my father, who they got divorced when I was 7. I guess America. I was brought to America, and I'm now ready, I think, to reconnect, but I've noticed that even with my present family, I have some closeness, but there's still a part of me, like I can be vulnerable with myself, I can be vulnerable with a stranger, but I don't really feel safe. I mean, when I'm with my family, I'm just not vulnerable, I'm just neutral.
Which family? Your original family you're speaking of?
Any family. My current and my,
Well, when you say current, what is your current family? Is it?
Kids and my husband.
It's your husband and children?
Yes.
Okay, and then now this family that you would like to reconnect to, who does that consist of?
Sister, brother, mother, my father who's in New York. Yeah, that's that.
Okay. So, and have you been estranged from them for all these years?
Yes.
Okay, and now there's something inside of you, and what is that something inside of you? What is this burning desire inside of you saying to you about reconnecting with this original family? What's the motivation behind that? Do you have any idea?
Yeah, I want to open and step more into myself, and I have to let go of these patterns of rejection. And I don't actively reject and hate them or anything. I just decided that they weren't working for me, and I needed to find something that was going to support my needs better. So I don't know what I did. It's like I shut down in some way, and I've done that with all humans. And that's shifting inside of me, but I'm still, even people want to get close to me, and I'm just neutral. I don't know.
Yeah. Have you listened to the whole show? Were you on at the beginning of the show? Yes. When I read that little piece about the school teacher and the children in the third grade?
I wouldn't have trusted what anybody had said. That I don't believe that they would have said something that nice. It would have been just polite. That would have been a story. I can change that now. I can think of and purposely, but that would.
Let me ask you this: do you believe in God, or like some kind of divine presence that allows things to come into the world? It doesn't matter what we call it, but that there is some kind of. And do you believe that whatever that God is, whatever, do you believe that it's loving?
I had an experience in meditation where I was able to see love, and I was able to see how it was constantly surrounding all of us. And the only reason a person doesn't experience or see it is because they're participating in some form of rejection of experience.
So, Allie, let me ask you this, because we only have a few minutes left, and I think it's really important for you to try this little exercise. Just imagine God, the source from which all things are come, and the thing that we know about God, what it is that there's no place that it is not, that it is eternal, that it is omniscient, that it is all-knowing and all-powerful, and that it is eternal. So most of the great philosophical teachers will tell us that if you ask them what is real, how do you define reality, they will say that is real, which never changes. That is real, which is eternal. If it's not eternal, it's not real. So that all hatred, for example, is really not real. All evil is really not real because it's not eternal. It doesn't the only thing that is eternal is this love. Okay, so this is your source of being. It wasn't your parents. It wasn't, that brother and mother and sister that you would like to reunite with. Where you originally came from is where everything originates from, this original source of being. Try to imagine yourself in a conversation with this source of being that is nothing but pure love. God is love. It's just pure love. And asking this source what it thinks about you, Allie. How does it feel about you? Now remember, it is pure love, and you came from it. So, and the only thing that it knows, it's just oneness. The only thing that it knows is love. That's why it gives off these little sparks like you and me and everything that ever shows up into this world. And in a conversation with this source, ask it, what do you think of me? And what do you think it would say?
You're okay.
Yeah. Okay, just okay. Let me say, just okay? Let me try to give you go ahead. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I just felt like that part of me was feeling defensive, and like I'm refusing to. So let me try to be God and speak to you, Allie. You are a part of me. You are a spark of me. I am love. I am pure love. That's all I am, is pure love. There's nothing but me. There's no opposites. I'm in a world in which there is no opposite of love. There is no hatred. There's no bitterness. These are concepts that I don't even know anything about because I'm only pure love. And you are a piece of that. You are a part of that. And therefore, to me, you are nothing but an expression of the highest thing that there is in this universe, the highest force that there is, and it's pure love. That's what you are. And that's how I feel about you. All I can do is love you because you are so precious to me that I gave up a little tiny piece of myself to have you show up in this world. That's how perfect you are. And when I don't recognize you is when you go into the reasons why there's something wrong with you, the reasons that you're bad, or the reasons that you might have come up with in your own mind to place anything negative about yourself in your mind. It's not possible. You are me. I am you. And all I have for you is love. I don't know how that resonates with you. I just got it in my ear that we just have less than a minute left on the show. But I'd like to send you a copy. Have you read I Can See Clearly Now? No, I haven't.
Yeah, I'd like to send that to you. And also my daughter's book, Don't Die With Your Music Still In You. Great lesson for that in you. And also Sky's Letting Go. 3 little packages. All for you today, Allie, because you're just so loved. Thanks for your call and everyone else's call. It was a great show today. I love you all. Namaste.
Dr. Dyer, welcome.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing very, very well this morning.
That's great. I guess it's not morning anywhere else, but I'm in Hawaii,
afternoon,
and it's still morning. Right.
I'm stuck in the same time zone all day long.
Right.
What's going on in your life this week?
Well, I've just been giving a little thought to something that I was talking to my friend Byron Katie about just a few weeks ago on a seminar that we did, which I believe is going to be put out by Hay House as well in another month or two. It was an all-day seminar. And she spoke about not being in other people's business. And I've given that a lot of thought. And there's a lot of ways that that's something that interferes with us, especially with our own happiness and fulfillment as people. One of the things that I've noticed a lot, I don't know if you've noticed it, Summer, but if you look on the newsstand recently, you're going to see just a proliferation of these gossip magazines. And they all look almost the same. And there used to be one or two. There was like People magazine and Us magazine and a few others. But now there must be 50 of these things that are out there, and they all cover the same things. The same people. I think it's Angelina and it's Jennifer and it's Brad and maybe a handful of others. People who are celebrity type people, and they have photographers following them around wherever they go. And every one of these magazines, in fact, many of them just use the same pictures over and over and over again. And every week, it's the same. It's the continuous thing. And I keep thinking about why are there so many of these now? Why there must be a great deal of profit in that? And why is this one great big profitable item that the American people seem to be just obsessed with the business of other people, who's had plastic surgery, who's pregnant, who looks like maybe they would want to be pregnant, who looks, every story is just sort of a continuation of people being obsessed with other people's business. And one of the things that I've learned specifically in the last year or so working on my new book called Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life, which won't be out till later this year, but it's on living the Tao. And many of you who follow this radio show know that I have been working on writing individual essays about the 81 verses that Lao Tzu wrote about 2,500 years ago and how to apply this ancient and powerful wisdom. So what I've done is, I've looked at this whole concept of not interfering in our lives and not being obsessed with, other people's lives. The Tao teaches us that non-interference is the most important thing and most important place that we can go to in our lives. So, I was just, the other day, I was assigned to sort of a little babysitting adventure with my grandson and two little girls. And I was watching them for 3 hours out by the pool. And I noticed I was trying to practice this non-interference, staying out of other people's business, and just making sure that these are three little children that know how to swim and all of that, but just make sure that they're safe. But anything else, just stay out of their business. I had made up my mind I'm going to just stay out of their business. And I would watch the two of them would go together down at one end of the pool, and they'd be fighting about something, and they'd be arguing about this, and then they'd want to come and tell me to resolve it. And it was back and forth with this continuous trying to include me in their business, and I was determined that I was going to stay out of their business. And I would watch as, like I was in the pool with one of the little girls, her name is Kylie, and she started being unhappy about something that her sister had said or my grandson had said. And I looked at her and I said, well, you get that resolved and I'll be right back. And I dove down to the bottom of the pool, swam to the other edge of the pool. By the time I got to the other end of the pool, maybe 20 seconds later, stuck my head up, the two of them were hugging. And I found that over a 3-hour period that I could completely stay out of the business of these little children, and they could resolve it themselves. And we're learning much, much more than just having one great big person come along and interfere. Now, there's an application between that and these gossip magazines, as strange as it may sound, and that is that I think that whoever you are, if you're obsessed with what somebody else is doing in their life, who they're dating, what their sex life is like, whether or not they've gained weight, whether or not they've had a boob job, whether or not the endless kind of obsession with this kind of information is something that you might really want to take a look at and ask yourself, am I in my business or am I in somebody else's business? And if I'm continuously putting my focus on what somebody else is doing, what I'm really doing is shifting the energy away from living my life to its absolute fullest and instead living through the accomplishments or the lack of accomplishments or the bad news or the hard times or whatever it is of other people. And I urge you to just not participate in that, to stop purchasing those kinds of things, to stop simply reading them. Don't even open them up and look at that, and instead look within, look at your own life. Because basically what we need, I think, are people who are fully committed to making this world a better place rather than just constantly being consumed with gossip about who's doing what and how it's taking place. So that's all I wanted to speak about today, this idea of staying out of other people's business, even your own children's business. One of the great lines that I remember from some of my earlier writing was that the things we love, you have to learn to leave alone. The things we love, we have to learn to leave alone. And I was practicing that with my own little grandson and children, and I watched as they resolved virtually everything rather than having me interfere. What do you think about that, mama of two?
I think it's a profoundly simple idea that is incredibly complex to actually execute.
Yeah, well, mothers always say that.
Stay away from the fireplace. I'm going to interfere.
But there's a big difference there between, obviously, if you bring children into the world, you can't just say, all right, go out there and play next to the swimming pool. I know you don't know how to swim. If you fall in, you'll work it out. I'm not saying that at all,
I know that, but being attuned to the difference of where you really are needed versus where you can step back.
Yeah. But you'd be surprised how often our young children invoke us to resolve conflicts or difficulties or even tiny little problems that if we just gave them maybe another 20 or 30 seconds, they could resolve it. And I don't mean just little children either. I'm talking about teenagers. I'm talking about your adult children. I'm talking about your friends and everything else. Pretty much allowing other people to figure it out when there's no danger it's just something to look at and realize that by getting dragged in there yourself, almost always you become a part of their problem. And now, and especially if you have two children there and you take sides with either one of them, then the other one is going to be upset, and then back and forth you go.
Right. No, I hear exactly what you're saying, but you have to keep your mind attuned to that process.
Right. Exactly.
Well, Dr. Dyer, I think we have time actually to go right to a call. Still in this first break. Wonderful first section. We have Katie from Raton, New Mexico. Katie, welcome to our show today.
Hello, how are you?
Hi, Katie.
Hi, Dr. Dyer.
How are you?
Good.
You're in New Mexico?
Yes.
I just saw a movie called Little Miss Sunshine.
Oh, yes.
Did you see that?
Well, actually, I haven't seen it, but I've heard of it.
But they're going from Albuquerque to Los Angeles.
Yes. They're starting to film a lot out here.
Are they? Yeah, they must be.
In Albuquerque, mainly.
Yes, right. Well, how are you today?
Oh, I'm pretty good. I was listening to you talk, and I guess my question is a little different, but
that's okay.
I was wondering, you're talking about living inspired, and I am doing pretty good with I am very inspired, but what I'm having trouble with is maintaining that, I guess. There's so many things that I'm starting a new business, and it's a greenhouse business, growing tomatoes. Actually, I've been doing this, but I'm expanding into a pretty large business now, and I'm a little nervous about it, but I'm very inspired to do it, and I keep getting, I don't know if I'd call them signs or something from the universe that this is the right direction.
What are the signs?
But things like things start working out, or I talk to people that would maybe buy my product, and they're very inspired about what I'm doing. The problem I'm having is the people around me that are close to me don't believe in this at all.
Well, this is related exactly to what I was talking about. They're in your business, aren't they?
Well, very much. My father is the main one, in which I'm 50 years old, but he still likes to get into my business.
Right.
And, I love him, and he's very helpful, but he's very negative, and he is very afraid for me to go into any kind of debt, let's say, because he's afraid. He's just afraid, but he was always a gambler and a goer and a risk taker and all that, but now he's almost 80 and he doesn't want to see his daughters doing it.
Right. He wants to
and I cannot live the uninspired life that he just keeps asking me, why can't you just be happy with what you're doing in the status quo? But I would die. I would literally die.
There you go. That's
if I had to.
That's the answer. When people say that to me, I'm 66 years old, and I'm, if you look at my website, you'll see a whole host of weekend seminars and trips that I'm going to be taking around the country and going to Europe and all of these kinds of things. And basically, I should just stay home and relax. I've done enough.
But you have enough money.
Come on, stick around. I want to talk about this. It's really important. One thing that you said there that I just want to reiterate before we leave is that you said that if I don't do it, I would die.
Well, I just don't see myself maintaining the status quo that I'm at right now.
Yeah, and what is that status quo?
Well, I'm working. I have my little greenhouse. It's only running 6 months out of the year, so right now I'm not. Actually, I'm just getting ready to start up again.
Uh-huh.
But it's just not enough. You know, it's small, and it's nice, and I enjoy helping the people that I help, but I've always had a bigger vision than this.
What do you love about this greenhouse tomato business?
What I really love is the idea of producing really quality food and be able to deliver it.
And when you're doing it, like when you're digging and when you're planting and when you got the seeds and when you see the little shoots come out of the ground.
To me, it's just all a miracle.
Isn't it? I mean, isn't it? It's almost like giving birth, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. And I get very excited over very little things, like a plant that maybe I brought back to life because I paid more attention to it. And I might be really excited about that, but I am having trouble finding other people that get as excited as I do.
Do you think it's possible that for your father, for example, you get one person to have that same feeling inside of him about that as you do?
Do I think it's possible?
Yeah. Do you think it's plausible? I mean,
I think he does also see things sometimes. He bought me on this little business I started.
Right.
And said, you know, it's perishables and you're going to lose all your money and and you can't go against the big box stores. And I just had a lot of faith and I've done way better than he ever thought I could do. And so for him, if you make a lot of money or make money doing it, it's successful.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, he's kind of that frame.
One of the great lessons that I learned was as a young doctoral student from Abraham Maslow, one of the great teachers in my life, was that when he was describing people who achieve at the highest level, who reach what he called self-actualization at the very top of the pyramid, he had two assessments of them. One is that these are people who are detached from outcome. Okay. They're detached from outcome, and the other one is that they're independent of the good opinion of other people. Those are the two number one and number two criteria. Okay. Detached from outcome, and that's why I was asking you about the process of what it is that you do, of the digging, of bringing a plant back to life, of the excitement that you feel in participating in the dance of creation, which is what you are doing.
That's what I get excited about.
Yeah, and it's like it's self-actualizing people let go of the outcome. They don't do what they do because of how much they're going to make, because it's going to make them successful, because they're going to get on the bestseller list, because they're going to sell a lot of tomatoes. They do it because it's just an exquisite thing, and it just has to grow. It's like
it is really exquisite.
But that's what I would suggest to you as well. You want to live an inspired life. You just do what your heart tells you you're here for. It just makes your heart sing what you're doing. And I can hear that in you.
Right, I do. I mean, that's the time I'm very excited. And what bothers me, I guess, is when I try to share it with my family or people close to me, and they just don't get it, or it's not exciting to them. And then I'm sort of left with this inspiration by myself a little bit right now.
But that's that's another part of this whole process is that the moment that you try to share what it is that you are doing that makes you feel so close to God, the minute that you try to do that, you invoke the ego. Because what happens is you're going to now have to explain it and defend it or be upset because other people don't understand it.
Exactly.
So that's ego. Because, and ego isn't where you're getting all of this inspiration from. You're getting it from spirit. That's what it means to be inspired, to be in spirit.
So the ego is trying to get the approval of others.
Exactly. So what you want to do is you want to detach from that, and you just want to go out there and do it. And if there's somebody comes along who gets excited about it, like I can feel your excitement about these tomatoes. I really can, and I know what that feels like because I sometimes just I'll get a thing of plant seeds that somebody will send me in the mail, just a little thing. Sometimes they implant them in greeting cards. I don't know if you've seen these now. And they just say tear the greeting card up and plant it in the dirt and just water it. And I do that, and a week goes by, and 2 weeks go by, and all of a sudden, this tiny little green thing just shoots up out of. And it's like one of the greatest feelings that you can have in life to know that you're participating in this dance of creation.
Right.
And I don't try to tell anybody else about it. Someone will come out and look at that thing on my patio and say, "What, you got weeds growing in there?"
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, and I have a lot of cactus, and when I go in there in the mornings, every one of them is different, and I may have new blooms every morning, or, you know, something exciting has happened over the nighttime, and I can go in the morning, and it's like sitting there looking at me, and I get so excited about the way the bloom looks, How is it possible that this little cactus...
See, this is where you have to stay, Katie. You really have to stay with it. And when you said to me, I would die inside if I wasn't doing this, I remember somebody asked that of Madonna, the singer Madonna. And she, they asked her, like, you've made millions and millions of dollars. You're very wealthy. Why do you continue to put out albums? Why do you keep singing? And I'll never forget what she said. She said, because if I didn't do it, I would die inside. Okay. And so whether it's singing or whether it's your tomatoes or whether it's for me, it's my writing or my speaking or whatever it is, whoever you are out there, whatever it is that makes your heart sing, stay with that and the universe will take care of the details.
Okay.
The profits are just not that important. I promise you.
Okay.
Thank you, sweetheart.
Well, thank you so much.
What a lovely call. Thanks. God bless you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Katie. Thank you. Interesting metaphor there for living.
Yes, it really is. Yeah, that thing that excites us, and none of us, everybody has it. For somebody, it's just throwing a baseball. It's just getting out there and doing that all day long. For somebody else, it's sitting and drawing. One of my kids would just sit there and draw and draw and draw and draw. One of my children would just all she could think about was horses. That when her whole life, and when she got her horse and she would get on that horse, I mean, her whole institution as a person, everything about her would shift because of the joy that she felt. She had connected to her source, and that's what we're talking about here.
Well, I can see that this is going to be an interesting hour of calls, Dr. Dyer, because we're going now to Sue in Irvine, California on line 9, and I think she also has a similarly unusual question for you. Sue, welcome to our show.
Hi, Dr. Dyer. I'm such a fan of you. I can't believe I'm talking to you.
Thank you. That's nice to talk to you.
My question is just, I have a son, he's 24 years old, and he's getting his master's degree this year in public policy. But right now he's getting involved with a heart metal band group.
With what?
Like a heart metal music, heart metal.
Yes, hard metal, yes.
Yes, and then, Dr. Dyer, this is totally very, very different for us because we are not American. I'm from Middle East, and this is so against our culture because, all our children are either like engineers or doctors or always professionals. And then how you were saying that if you love someone, you leave them alone. But
we have to learn to love the things we love. We have to learn to leave alone. Yeah. I mean, and the truth of that is, it's like if you really love something and you try to help it out, get in the way of it. There's a wonderful, and I'll get back to the hard metal thing in a moment, but there's a wonderful story. I always remember this from when I was back in graduate school of, they would film these little baby chickens that were inside. They could actually see through x-rays. They could see them as they were trying to poke their little beaks, against the shell in order to get out, to become born. And they would struggle and struggle and struggle, and it's such a hard little thing because they got these tiny little things inside of this eggshell, and they have to break that shell. So that some of the students, what they would do is they would try to help the little bird along by just cracking it a little bit so it would be easier for it. And every single time, one of the students that were doing this, in their sympathy and in their desire to help this other person, this little tiny baby chicken, the chicken would die. The thing would, every single time it would die. But the ones that were left alone, the ones that, because the part of the process, apparently, for being born for a little tiny chicken is that it has to go through that struggle. That real hard exertion is what gives it the strength to be able to break through and to move on. And I think we have to remember, it's a simple little metaphor, but we have to remember it with our own children as well. And with everyone else, and especially even a 24-year-old, that if he is feeling deeply within him that this kind of heavy metal music is something that is his calling, and he's really attracted to it, I think letting him go is might be the way. Don't go away. We'll come back to it.
Okay.
Well, is it a band that he wants to start?
Yes. Well, no, he is right now in a band. He plays bass there.
How's he doing?
And believe it or not, I just saw it once and I couldn't stand it at all. I was going crazy. I thought, this is not my son.
Is that your son?
We're all laughing.
What do you think he should be singing? Oh, Solo Mio?
No.
That was the last program. We had our opera singer on from New York, remember?
Right. I do.
No, But doctor, I'm so involved with it because every time I see these movies about these heart metals, they're always involving drugs and alcohol. It's just.
But that's not the case. That's only some of them. I mean, there are there are rappers for Jesus that are out there. There are heart metal people who are singing songs that are really attempting to, who are against violence and who hate the wars and so on. I don't know where your son stands on that. But all I know for sure is that if he's in that band and if he's playing it and if he feels that it's something that he has to do and it's not interfering with anybody else's, life and not hurting anyone, then I think giving him your blessing would be probably the best thing that you could do.
But, Doctor, how about the investment we did for him for so many years for going to school? He could have not, you know what I'm saying, just because he could have done this without even going to school.
But he's only 24. I mean, he's 24 years old. I mean, it doesn't mean that when he's 50, he's going to still be singing we really don't know. None of us do, because it isn't up to us to make those kinds of decisions for other people. I mean, you can put a kid into school and you can send their tuitions in and you can have them take all of their courses and so on. But inside of them beats a drum beat that is very different than the one that you hear. And for him, I mean, it's something that it sounds to me it's like it's something that he has to do. Does he say that to you?
He said his music is his passion. He said that's what he always wanted to do.
Mm.
But he went to school. He went through. That's what I'm saying. He's getting his master's degree this year from a very prestigious school.
What is your passion?
My passion, to be honest with you, for him or for myself?
No, for you.
Oh, I'm too old. I don't have any more passion, doctor.
Oh my goodness! How old are you?
I'm 46.
You're 46.
Yes.
And you're already too old, and you have no passion left?
No, I don't have any more passion. My passion were my children, doctor.
Well, I would encourage you to understand, what Gibran said about your children. Your children are not your children. They are the products of life's longing for itself. They come through you, but not for you. Your children came through you. They're not yours. And I would suggest to you that you probably have a great passion, something that inside of you, is something that you've always wanted to do, but you've never quite given yourself permission to do it because you've been so consumed, probably, with being such a wonderful mother and taking care of your children and all of that. But now you're getting to a point where you're realizing that you can't make your children become what you think that they should be just because they happen to be biologically related to you. And I would urge you, my dear, very strongly, Sue, to go within and look at what your own passion might be. And maybe you should go to school and find a course that, find something that just excites you. What is it that excites you more than anything? Is there anything out there like that?
To be honest with you, Dr. Dyer, I never even think about it. I go work every day. I go home and cook for my husband, and I have a great relationship with my husband. But I never thought anything to do anything for myself. Just go find my passion because we were immigrant in this country, and we would always work and work and work.
But you're a child of God. You are a piece of God, and you came into this world to complete something. There's something that you're here for, and I know that if I had enough time with you, you'd be able to spit it out. And there's probably been some kind of a fear in there that if I do this, then I won't be as good a wife, and I won't be as good a mother, and I won't be as good a homemaker. But the fact is that if you felt that deep sort of commitment to what it is that you are as a human being, what it is that you are, I think, and Summer, I mean, you might even add to that. I mean, you're a mom, you've got a busy home and all of that, but you also have this great passion with this radio show, and how do you bring them both together?
Very carefully. Really, Sue, when I heard you say you were too old for passion, I was shaking my head here, biting my tongue.
Well, I always try to listen to you every Monday. Even I'm at work right now, but I just have to listen to you. My lunch hour I take and listen to you. But that's what I'm saying, Doctor. I don't see anything for myself anymore. I'm just looking forward for my children's future. Honestly, I don't. Yeah. I think I'm done. I did all I could have done.
No, you're not, Sue. You're not even close to done. You're just beginning. In fact, the fact that you listen and the fact that you hear this and you hear the kind of things that we speak about and you hear about being inspired and you hear about making a difference in the world. I mean, Mother Teresa didn't even start her work as a nun until she was 55. 55, and she's a saint. I mean, she's 10 years older than you are before she even went into her religious training. and spent like 40 years making a huge difference in the lives of the whole world. You're hardly even beginning. And I would say that to anybody that is out there. Go within, listen, get quiet, watch your children, enjoy them, but find your own passion as well and live that. And you're going to find yourself a really happier mother, wife, but most of all, your number one relationship in the world shouldn't be to your husband, it shouldn't be to your children, it should be to God, and that is the highest part of yourself. You are a piece of God. Thank you, my dear.
Thank you so much. I love you so much, Dr.
I love you too. God bless you.
God bless you too.
Thank you.
Well, Dr. Dyer, that call was really about Sue. I don't think it should have been about her son at all.
Well, that's why I shifted it.
Yeah. I agree with you. All right, let us go on.
And heavy metal is great. Bamba, 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 whatever.
Yeah. All right, Abby from Milford, Delaware. Abby, welcome to our program on Line 5 today.
Hi.
Hi, Abby.
Oh, I can't believe I'm actually speaking to you.
Why not?
I'm just such a huge fan. I'm shaking like a leaf now.
Where are you located?
I'm in Delaware.
Delaware? Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. I think what you said to that woman about Mother Teresa had to have inspired her completely. I think that was wonderful.
Most people don't realize that about her. She was 55 when she decided to go into the numbers.
No, I didn't know that either. That's
do the kind of work that she was doing, yeah. And look at Nancy Pelosi. Do you know who she is?
No, I don't.
I mean, she's the Speaker of the House in the United States. She's the first woman who's ever held. She's the third person in line to if the president and vice president were to die, she would be the president of the United States. She raised all 5 of her children and didn't go out until they were all raised. And now she's, I think she's 64 or 65 years old, and she's out there as the Speaker of the House. I mean, she didn't start it until she was in her 50s.
Wow.
So there's lots and lots of room for all of us. Yeah. What is your question, dear?
Well, I think what I do is I constantly am thinking about creation and what the whole point in us even being here is, and like how it all began, and like it's just so mind-boggling, just bends my mind and makes me feel so uneasy that I start to just wonder what's the point in anything, what's the point in doing anything. And I'll read books of yours and I'll hear different things that inspire me and make me feel enlightened, and for a moment I'm just like, wow, that's awesome, and I'll think on that, and then the other stuff creeps in again that I'm just like, well, what's the point? And I have doubt just constantly creeping in, and
it sounds like I'm just guessing, but it sounds like there's like this huge fear of death. Is there any?
It's just fear of even being alive, fear of just thinking like, how did God even start to make anything begin, and just all of that, the whole, just
I know, I was watching
wrapping your brain around it is nearly impossible.
There was a story in the New York Times yesterday about what life was like, what the universe was like at the very beginning, at what they call the Big Bang. And I always think, how could there be a beginning? Because you have to say what was there before the beginning, and how could there be an end?
I can't help but be tremendously uneasy when I think about that, and I just want to live and just be.
Stick around. Let's talk about it. So, like in the great big context of things, it just all seems too big to even wrap our fingers around, doesn't it? It's just, and yet,
so it makes me not stay inspired for long because I just start to doubt and say, well, what's the point?
Yeah. The real essence of what we're talking about here is the ability to be able to stay in the moment. It's because what we do with what we do with the kind of questions that you're asking and the kind of things that we contemplate, like how big is this, and how long am I going to be dead, and is there life after life, and and where does the universe end, and how could such a thing even begin? And you look out at the billions and billions of stars and realize that there's endless numbers of galaxies with even more stuff. It just goes and goes and goes. And if we were to just take off and shoot up into the sky and say, okay, I'll just keep going, and how far will I ever come to the end of the universe? And you'll find out that there can't be an end. I mean, how could there be an end? What would be at the end? A wall? And then you'd have to ask yourself, well, what's on the other end of the wall? What's on the other side? It's like that endlessness, because who we are, and this is really important, who we are is this paradox of that which began and ended. That's this body of ours. It began in a moment and it ended in a moment, but also internally within us, there's this huge paradox of all of these thoughts and all of this stuff that comes out of nowhere. It comes out like, what is a mind and what is a thought and where does it come from? And we can go inside of ourselves and we can find the command center that allows in the brain that allows us to have a thought, but we can never find the commander in the command center that's in there directing us to move our fingers or to go forward or to have this idea. And it's like, instead of fighting it and getting worried about it and it's like, move yourself always back into this moment. To say to yourself, here, now, this is all that I have, and whatever I can do to make it a better place for myself and for others, that's got to be enough. That seems to me what God does. You know?
Well, I do that often, and I'll get myself back in the moment, and I'll say, okay, I don't need to know. I don't have to wrap my brain around all that. I can just be. Like, I feel like everybody else is just living and just being, and there's just me, little old me, sitting here questioning it all.
No, little old me does the same thing.
And I can't. It just feels like it paralyzes me. Like, I just
Oh, well, that's the thing it doesn't do for me. It doesn't paralyze me, because sometimes, I remember, I always tell the story when I was a little boy. I was living in an orphanage, and I was about 7 years old. And the lady whose house that we lived in, her name was Mrs. Scarf. She came out and she handed my brother David and I. We were sitting on the back steps, a banana, and I peeled the banana, and she said, and she was sobbing, and she said, "Mr. Scarf died this morning." Now, I had never heard the word death before when it related to a person. I'd heard it about chickens because we used to kill chickens, and I'd seen dead bugs and things, but I had never ever thought of the idea of people as dying. And I remember asking her, when will he be back? And she said, never. Now, I went upstairs, and I lived on a bunk bed. I slept on a bunk bed. There were 6 of us that slept in this room, and I slept on the very top. And I laid there, eating that banana. I could remember this like it was yesterday, trying to contemplate the concept of never. Of never coming back. Just like it was and it's like, so I'd think, well, what if it was 100 years? Well, what if it was 1,000,000 years? What if but never. And it was so paralyzing and so difficult for me that I had to immediately shift my thoughts off of it. It was just too much to even begin to contemplate. And there's that whole thing about the oneness of the universe, about what God must be like, about what it must be to be in a universe which never ends, which is that is something that you are going to know. You're going to know that. I believe that because I listened to Abraham, and I really believe that Abraham is one of the great teachers on the planet today, the teachings of Esther and Jerry Hicks, that moment when you leave this world of form and beginnings and ends and boundaries, and when you leave that and enter into that oneness, that space where all things are one, and that there's no beginnings, there's no ends, there's nothing for us to fear, you're going to know the greatest bliss that you've ever had. Why not work at doing that now? And if we're wrong, we're wrong.
And so that's how you've shifted from when you said as a boy the thought paralyzed you, and now it doesn't.
Yeah, it does. It's so incomprehensible for us who believe that we did begin and end, that there is all of this. It's so incomprehensible for us because we're so connected to our ego, which is the part of us that believes we are this body, we are separate from everybody else, we are what we have, we are what we look like, we are whatever it is. And to get past that, and that's basically what my life work is. It's really about teaching people to get past that and to be at peace with the great oneness. And then that great fear of death and that great fear that it doesn't all fit together will leave us. That's all I can say about it. I mean, we could go on and on about it, but it's to me.
So what are some things I could do to get at that peace?
Always shift back into this moment and say, how can I be at peace now? What is it that instead of using that great unknown as something to be afraid of, use that great unknown as something that you anticipate and that you're excited about and you have no fear about, because every being who's ever been on this planet, every being, all the billions and billions of us, we all return, as the Tao said, the way of Tao is a return trip. We are on our way back to the place from which we originated. Why not make that return trip without having to die and enjoy every moment that we have?
Okay.
Okay.
Well, you're very inspiring, and I love your work, and I'm always telling people about your books and trying to spread your knowledge.
Well, thank you so much. That's fascinating stuff, what you talked about. And to think that it's just little old you that is contemplating all of these things and wondering and all of that. It's not little old you. Every single one of us has this great desire to be connected to that thing from which we all came to, which we know is greater than we are. There is something to which all of us are connected that is greater than we are. And if we could just trust in it and just have faith in it, it'll bring us a lot more peace.
And one more thing, I know I'm taking up a lot of time, but I just got your Getting in the Gap book and CD. Would that help me?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
I was going to recommend that, as a matter of fact, that you look at and do that meditation that's in that CD at the end of that book. It's called Japa, where you just repeat the sound of the name of God and watch the peacefulness come over you. Watch and just sort of become the observer to how much joy and peace there is in those kinds of contemplative moments in which you make conscious contact with God.
Okay.
Okay, sweetheart.
I will continue doing that.
Namaste.
Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you.
Thanks for your call, Abby. Well, Dr. Dyer, we've only got a few minutes. Do you want to try taking
let's
one
take
last
one
person?
quick one. Yeah.
How about Kim? She's been holding on from Haliburton, Ontario, Canada. Kim?
Hi there.
Quickly, come on.
Thank you so much for taking my call.
Yeah, thank you. How are you, my dear?
I'm good. It's a little chilly up here, but...
yes, I heard.
Yeah. A lot of snow.
Yeah.
My question, actually, I'll try to get to it quickly. My husband and I are going to be moving in with his parents. I wondered how I can sort of maintain my spiritual balance.
The peace that you... Because we only have a minute or so.
Yeah.
The peace that you want for yourself, okay? The joy, the peace, the happiness, the fulfillment, just the sense of serenity that you desire for yourself, want it more for them than you do for yourself, and you'll live in peace with them.
Wow. Okay.
Want it more for them, whoever they are. They're much older. They've got whatever. But just as you think about what I want, what do I want? I want to be peaceful. I want to be able to live with these people happily. I want to be able to, want that more for them. Every time you have this thing about me, shift it to them and just watch. And just watch how much joy you'll receive in being able to serve these older people rather than thinking about how they're interfering or how they're not the same as you or how they're from a different generation. Let all of that go. Reach out, surround them with the kind of loving energy and say, what can I do to give them the peace that I desire so much?
I love them very much, but
yeah.
I want to take care of them. I want to help them. I just wanted to, like you were talking about at the beginning of the show, how do you maintain and stay out of people's business and that kind of thing.
You've been given a gift, the ability to serve other people, because that's what God realization is. God is doing nothing. The source is doing nothing but always providing, always giving, always making available to us the endless abundance and prosperity and joy and peace and happiness that's available to all of us. By doing that, by just continuously doing that, you'll forget all about yourself and just say, it's my turn to serve. My dear friend Ramdas, who lives over here on Maui with me, said that the last year of his life when he took care of his father and he had to put him on the toilet and he had to wipe him and he had to lift him off and he said it was the greatest year of his life. He learned more from that than any other experience.
Oh, absolutely. They are our teachers for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you so much for your call. And Dr. Dyer, until next week.
Thank you, my dear.
Okay, take
Another
care.
Good day.
Another good day here on Dr. Wayne Dyer's Inspiration. Dr. Dyer, welcome to our show today.
Thank you, Summer.
All right.
It was great. We just had Louisa's wonderful 80th birthday party in San Diego. Just flew back from there. It was a great, great event. What a wonderful evening.
Oh, it was fabulous. Definitely worth waiting for.
Yes.
Waiting for 5 years, at least we were waiting for.
Right.
From her 75th now to her 80th.
Right.
So how about that first principle, that one having to do with matching our daily habits with our true desire and the difficulty of doing so? Or I'm sure you'll explain how it's quite easy.
Well, this is really what the whole principle of balance is all about. When I use the word balance, I'm talking about having a balance, or what I call creating an alignment between our thoughts, what it is that we would like to be able to create for ourselves. If you would like to be able to create abundance and well-being and great relationships, or be able to get a job that you want, or be able to, fulfill an inner nagging destiny that you feel you just haven't been able to fulfill, that we have these desires, we have these thoughts that we put out there that we'd like to be able to manifest and create. And then we also have habits, and those habits don't very often match up with what it is that we would like to create. That people who believe, for example, that they can create well-being in their life and that they can heal themselves don't ever go around with the habit of thinking that it'll probably get worse and isn't this awful, and even the habit of always constantly taking pills and having somebody else diagnose your problems for you and so on. You have a sort of a trust that you begin to develop for yourself that is in harmony with what it is that you want for yourself. So if you want to live a life of well-being, you have to really look at what kind of images and thoughts that you have inside of you that are either keeping you aligned with that or keeping you distant from that. And this is true for creating prosperity. I mean, people that absolutely know that prosperity is something that they can create, or a relationship of love and kindness and joy is something that they absolutely insist upon. They don't have habits. If they are living that way, they don't have habits that are critical of another person, or believing that that your luck has always been bad and that other people's are fortunate than you are, and things like this. You shift around and understand that habits are just our habits of thought, and that our actions come from our thought. So I'm just this first chapter is a principle. I call it an infinity of forests lies dormant within the dreams of one acorn. Just think about that for a minute and hear it in again. An infinity of forests lies dormant within the dreams of one acorn. So here, and this is a metaphor, obviously. You've got an acorn, and buried deep within that acorn in an invisible place is the potential to create an entire forest, an infinity of forests, in fact. But it isn't going to happen unless this acorn is nurtured in a certain way, unless it gets itself into alignment with the creative process that allows all things to flow and to come into the world. So the metaphor for this is, for you out there listening, is that an infinity of possibilities of being able to create virtually anything that any other human being has ever created or done. An infinity of these things lies dormant within the dreams of you, one little acorn, one little being. But if you don't nurture it and you don't provide for it and you don't allow it to flourish and to grow and to manifest in the way that it's destined to do, then it will just wither away, just like an acorn that will wither away if it's not nurtured properly. So I have a little section in this first chapter. This is a little book. I love this little book. It's a green book. It's what we call a puffy book. It's very similar in design to 10 Secrets for Success and Inner Peace. It's just coming out this month. In fact, this week. It's just being released. And I think there's 9 of these. I think you're going to really enjoy it, I was going to say. And there are 9 of these principles for getting yourself back in alignment with virtually everything that you'd like to create in your life. If you're overweight, if you have addiction difficulties, if you're having struggles in relationships, if you're having trouble with prosperity, all of these and others are all dealt with in individual principles. So I call this restoring the balance. The objective of this principle, I'm just going to read a paragraph, is to create a balance between your dreams and your habits. The least complicated way to begin is to recognize the signs of habitual ways of being, and then learn to shift your thinking to be in balance with your dreams. So what are your dreams? What is it that lives within you that's never gone away? What inner nightlight continues to glow, even if it's only a glimmer in your thoughts and dreams? Whatever it is, however absurd it may seem to others, if you want to restore the balance between your dreams and your habits, you need to make a shift in the energy that you're contributing to your dreams. If you're out of balance, it's primarily because you've energetically allowed your habits to define your life. Those habits and the consequences thereof are the result of the energy you've given to them. And that's the most important thing I've said in there. If you're out of balance, it's because you've energetically allowed your habits to define your life. And most people's lives are defined by their habits, habitual ways of acting, of thinking, in response to virtually anything that might give them the opportunity to create and manifest their dreams. What they do instead is they go with their habits of telling themselves it's difficult to change, or it probably won't work out, or nobody will understand, or I can't make this move because of all the requirements that I have, or because of all of the things that people have told me in my family and so on. All of these kinds of habits that you have in your life are what are dictating your life. And what I'm asking you to do in being in balance is to allow your dreams, your inner vision, that inner nightlight, to not only become less than a nightlight, to become like a floodlight and be the guiding principle in your life. And that's what I want to say about balance and doing it. And I think maybe we can move to some phone calls if we have time.
Yes, if you are ready, we definitely have callers on the line for you. Let's go on to Cheryl. She is in Largo, Florida. I believe, Cheryl, we can do this quickly.
Hello.
Hi, Cheryl.
Hi, Dr. Dyer. I'm so glad to get through.
I'm glad you got through. That's why I shortened it up. I said, Cheryl's waiting in Largo. Let's hear what she has to say.
Excellent. I called a few months ago. I think it was in July. I'm a former drug addict, and I was going through some rough times, and I was very depressed. I've been studying your teachings for a couple of years now, and I took a giant leap of faith and quit my miserable job, and now all of a sudden it's like a million opportunities are just falling into my lap, and
wow.
I just want to thank you so much from the bottom of my heart, because it really is amazing. It truly is miracle after miracle is happening.
Oh, I love calls like this. Let me ask you, first of all, you said you're a former drug addict. How long has it been since you were behaving in those ways?
Altogether, it's probably been a couple of years. Yeah, it has been a couple of years.
And what was the thing that pushed you over the edge to decide that wasn't going to be your way of life any longer?
Well, I was miserable living that pattern, and I had listened to Power of Intention, and that gave me hope and possibilities. And then, like what you're talking about with being in balance and changing your habits, I started changing, like instead of always thinking in the negative, I was thinking in the positive.
You remember a moment when you said, okay, drugs are things that I no longer am going to do? Because there had to be a time when you did them and then you stopped doing them. There's like, I call these quantum moments. Do you remember what that was?
Well, what happened to me is that I had a relapse. And the relapse was a result of having 2 surgeries in a row. So immediately I knew I didn't want to be in that pattern.
Right.
So I went and got help immediately.
So the relapse was actually something that was a shifting moment in your life.
Yeah, it made me realize that I have to be more careful. And if I do ever have another surgery in the future, I have to let the doctors know that I have an existing problem.
With pain, was it pain medication and so on?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that's so wonderful to hear that. And I want to know about this miserable job. What is it that you were doing that you knew, and not so much what the details were, but what made you make the shift to let go? You call it a miserable job. Is it like you felt miserable when you went into work each day?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So you're the perfect example of what I want everyone to hear, is that you changed your dreams, but you also changed your habits so that they began to match what it is that you wanted for yourself, which was an addiction-free life. Right. And also a life of being able to have things, show up in your life that weren't able to show up before because you're so blocked by all of the negativities. I mean, doing drugs is a negativity that keeps well-being from showing up. Being in a miserable job is a negativity that keeps prosperity from showing up. What was the job, and how did you quit before we leave you?
The job was, I was a medical billing specialist, and I worked at a computer all day, and I didn't feel like I was helping anybody with my job. And when I started practicing your ideas of universal love and generosity and positive thinking, I realized that I had to find a way to help other people. So I wasn't sure what I was going to do. I am an artist, but I wasn't sure how I was going to make a living, but I took the leap of faith, quit my job, and it just so happens that I had started studying the tarot and crystals, and these opportunities just fell in my lap right when I needed them, right when we were about to lose our electric and lose our home. They just fell in my lap. It was, truly miracles have happened to me.
Oh, that is so wonderful. That's exactly, and you know why? Because you've aligned yourself with the energy. And when you do, the universe, or whatever you want to call this force, the Tao that allows everything to be, begins to work with you because you're aligned with it rather than fighting it.
That's exactly right. And now what I aspire to do eventually is to help other people who are addicted to drugs to be able to see how easy and magically it works if you only, like you said, align yourself to those energies.
Oh, that's so great. Oh, thank you.
But I'm going to see you in Orlando.
Oh, that's great. Come up and say hello. Tell me we talked on the radio. I'll be up there in just a few weeks.
I know. I'm excited.
Thanks.
Thank you so much,
Thanks,
Dr.
Cheryl.
Dyer.
You're welcome.
It's just amazing.
Thank you. God bless you. Much love to you.
All right. Thanks, Cheryl. Well, Dr. Dyer, let's go now. We have Storm in Seattle, Washington. Storm, welcome to our program.
Well, hi there, and I'm just thrilled to have you on the phone, Dr. Dyer. Gosh, our whole family is a big we're just really have always needed your support through the years, and even in my mother's passing with cancer this last year, my sister had your book in the hospital, and we read it to her, and it was just, so I'm just really happy to be talking to you on behalf of my whole family.
What book did she read to her in the hospital? Do you remember which one it was?
It was The Power of Intention.
Power of Intention. And boy, that book, there's something about that book. It's just magically happening in everybody's life.
I think so. In fact, everyone joked and called it my sister's Bible. I didn't even know what it was. And my mother bought all these copies of this. And just for anyone who needs to read a book that will help them, that sure is it. And sorry about the noise. I have my 1-year-old in the background.
Oh, I love that. I love hearing that sound. It reminds me so many. It reminds me of all of those wonderful days of hearing those beautiful little voices. It's wonderful.
Oh, yes,
Storm. I love this. How did you get named Storm?
Well, thanks for asking. My parents took the advice of my grandfather, and he wanted me to be named Storm. And my dad's name is Rock, and his brother's name is Rush. Who knows? I don't know why. There's no reason. But anyway, I'm sort of an old mother. See, I'm 45, and I have this 1-year-old now.
Oh, good for you.
So it's great, but it's busy and all that. So
was that a surprise, or was that a plan?
A very big surprise, yeah.
Is this the only child you have?
Oh, no, my oldest. The reason I'm calling is about my oldest.
Okay, go ahead.
I can handle little ones. Those are easy.
Yes,
okay.
Right. Tell me about it. I know. I've got 8 of them.
Yeah, so I know, and I love hearing about what your kids are doing there. It's just, fun to just hear what you're doing with your kids and how you've inspired them or helped them get on with things they're interested in. Mm-hmm. But here's my problem. I'm a mother. It's easy to take care of this little one right here on the floor in front of me. But my oldest has left today for his second turn in Iraq. He's with the Army, and he's a medic. Okay. And I'm so proud of him, and he's just wonderful, and he made it through the last time, and there's no reason why he won't this time, of course, this. But here's what my dream is for my children: to be healthy and happy, and I always put that on the table as this is your job to be the best person you can be and all that. Okay. But it doesn't matter. I lay in bed worrying about these kids, and especially Daly, who's going to Iraq today again for a year and a half. Mm-hmm. So how do I stop from worrying about my own child like that? I just don't even know what to do.
Well, that's a wonderful question, and I wish I had the answer, because I would be a phony if I told you just don't worry, because I have an 18-year-old son. And I was just in the airport in San Diego on my way over here, and I looked at this young boy in a marina, and I started talking to him, and he was on his way to Iraq as well. And I thought, somebody's mother is very fearful and very, very concerned about that boy. And every one of these quote statistics that we read about every day in the newspapers, whether it's on the Iraqi side or whether it's on the insurgent side, if you will, or the Taliban or the Afghan or the American or whatever it is. There's always the mother back there and a family that is grieving over our inability to resolve our disputes with anything other than violence. All I can say to you, my dear, is to hold him in the highest place within your consciousness, to send him as much love as you possibly can, and to understand that the moment that your son was conceived, his birth was in there. It had nothing to do with him, and it really had nothing to do with you, because all of life is created by the source, by God. And in the moment of his birth, his death was also in there as well, as was yours, as is that little baby in front of you, and as is all of ours. And there's no justice, and there's no fairness, there's none of that out there. That some people are going to live for a year and a half, some are going to live 25 years, some are going to live 90 years. And buried within that that little tiny drop of human protoplasm that brought him into the world was the time that he is going to be leaving. So you're worrying about it. My teacher in India once said these words to me. He said, "It makes no sense to worry about the things you have no control over, because if you have no control over them, it makes no sense to worry about them." And then he said, "It makes no sense to worry about the things that you do have control over. Because if you have control over it, it makes no sense to worry about it. Just take control." So there goes everything that is possible for you to worry about. And if you can just sit back and just know that it's all perfect, it's there's a perfection that is behind our inability to resolve these disputes in loving ways. There's a perfection behind even these kinds of wars. There's a perfection even behind AIDS and behind every accident that none of us can grasp with our egos or with our minds, but in an infinite sense. And if you can go to that infinite place and just, put love out there for your son, and know that if anything were to have, if he were to be put into harm's way in any way, that he would still be completely and totally safe in the arms of God. If you know that, if you just truly have a knowing about it, the worry about it will just dissolve and disappear. And ultimately, perhaps we can figure out a way where mothers don't have to grieve the way they do. Does that make any sense?
Well,
Does that help?
I will, and I will replay your answer. We listen to the replay frequently in our home. Dr. Dyer, thank you so much.
Yeah, and I think being
really
in balance, you might want to send, when he goes, maybe have him send a copy of that, with him to carry with him in his life vest. It might be very, very much helpful to him as well, because it's really about, there's a chapter in there, I think it's the 9th chapter, about creating a world of peace so that we don't have to have these kinds of questions.
Yes, well, that's so true. And being a medic, he always tells his little brother that he doesn't go there to kill people. He's there to help people.
Absolutely. I had a brother who was a medic in Vietnam on 2 tours of duty as well, and he survived it, and he came out of it, and he's helping the world to be a better place today. So.
Well, that's what we're hoping will be the case for our son. Well, thank you so much, and
thank you, Storm.
I appreciate all your hard work out there.
Thank you. God bless you. What a beautiful call. Much love to you.
Thanks a lot, Storm. Well, Dr. Dyer, a lot of people call us, I find, wanting to know, how can I help my loved one? How can I pray for them? Or what can I do to support someone in another situation? And that was a perfect answer, I think, applied to more than just Storm, to others as well. Well, Dr. Dyer, we have Terry waiting on the line from Portage, Michigan. Terry, welcome to our program.
Hello?
Terry, are you with us?
Dyer?
Hi,
yes,
Terry.
I'm here.
Yay, hey.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Wonderful.
From Michigan.
Yes.
That's my home state.
Is it really?
Yes.
I am thrilled to be able to talk to you, and just thank you and all of you at Hay House for where I've come since I tune in every day.
Oh, do you? Great.
It's just been a change of life for me. I just have a few questions, especially regarding your theme today, and I had the privilege of being with Abraham Hicks last week. And
oh, did you? Whereabouts? In Detroit?
In Detroit, yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Esther and Jerry are two of the best people in the world.
It was off. I was 3 feet off the ground the entire day.
They're amazing.
But I actually had the opportunity. I saw my first 2 auras, and wow. I just feel like this
sharpening your vision. The book up there that I just think it's phenomenal. It's called Ask and It Is Given. You can get it through Hay House, by the way. I wrote the foreword to it. Yes.
Yeah.
Abraham asked me to write the foreword. The actual, the entities. So when you're 66 years old and dead people ask you to write the foreword, you don't say no.
Right.
I said, if dead people are talking to me, I'm going to...
I did get the book. Definitely, I did get the book.
Good.
And I'm looking forward to your new book, the Puffy book.
Oh, yeah, you'll love it.
Restoring your balance. Restoring the balance.
Being in balance, yeah.
Very excited about that.
Thank you. So what is your question?
My question is, there is I've been getting into I've been doing the meditation back into it. I actually used to do it every day for an hour when I was younger days. But, and I've been doing it, say, about a half hour a day. And I'm just trying to help everything that just where I'm going, get there is, I don't want to, how do I put this? I want to reach my potential in a pretty basic way. But there's an aura have you heard of aura balancing and polarity balancing and interphasing? There's some of that going on this weekend through, I believe it's the Course in Miracles folks. And I was wondering if you would recommend one of those, or...
You know what I would recommend to you? What is your first name?
Terry.
Terry?
Terri, yes.
I would recommend that if it resonates with you, if your heart tells you that it's something that you'd like to inquire about. See, I follow a great teaching by a man named Talopa who lived in the 10th century. He said, have a mind that's open to everything and attached to nothing.
Right.
So if you have a mind that's open to it, and if you think that an aura, first of all, you've just experienced something that you've never experienced before in your life. Okay, and how old are you?
I'm 48.
Yeah, so you're 40, and almost a half a century, you've probably even poo-pooed the idea that there is such a thing as an aura, and that if there was such a thing, certainly you're not somebody who's going to be able to see it. You know, this energy field that is around all of us, and all of a sudden you go to an experience, you have it, and you know deep within your heart and deep within your soul that it's real, that you saw it, that you felt it. Now you try to explain that to your mother, and you try to tell that to your neighbors, and they all just think that you're ready for the loony bin, don't they? But,
I know. I thought she had the most beautiful, the purplest hair I've ever seen.
Yeah. So I've been there.
Realizing it went out from her head. So
I've been there. I've seen that. I know that experience. I've seen that Carillion photography where they can actually take photos of auras. That I know that there's much more to this world than just the physical world that we're in. We know that there's an invisible intelligence that is in back of everything that Lao Tzu called the Tao, that I'm writing a book about right now. That all of that is there. We know it, and then when we have any evidence of it, or when it begins to crop up into our life, immediately we go back to what I call the morning of our life, which is the time when we have doubts. And those doubts become our, as Shakespeare said, they become our traitors, you know. And all I'm saying to you right now is let go of those doubts. Go to the knowing that's within you. Check it out for yourself. If I used to tell people that they used to tell me that if you have crystals and you put them on your rear end, they'll help you heal your hemorrhoids. I said, look, if I believe that crystals are going to heal my hemorrhoids, I'm going to get a crystal chair and sit my ass in it all day long. And if I believe it, if it's good enough for me, and I have a knowing about it, and then I don't have hemorrhoids anymore, I don't care what the physicians say or what the medical community says or what my mother says or anybody else.
You are so right. I got it. I got it.
That's why I wanted to take this call. That's why I want to talk to you about it. Trust, go within. If you have a knowing about it, and the best thing to do about it, Terry, don't tell anybody else about it. Because the minute that you start sharing this growing that's happening for you and this stuff that's taking place in you, you start introducing the ego. You have to defend it.
Yes. Thank you.
You have to explain it and you have to defend it. And then all of it, and then you lose it because none of this happens through ego. It all happens through spirit.
Right. The other, I saw two. One was the lady sitting behind me. The other one was, of course, around Esther. So it was just...
it's amazing. And once you have these kind of realizations, and you know what? There's a quotation from Rumi. I don't have it exactly, but he said, every tree and branch in the forest were shimmering, those which average eyes would see as fixed and still. The average eyes people, they look at a tree and they just see a branch and they just see, they see the leaves. But to the person who is looking and living at a different level of consciousness, they see everything is dancing, everything is moving. They see the space between the leaves. They see the energy that is underneath in the roots and in the leaves and in the blossoms and in the fruit. They see all of that, and they trust in it and have a knowing about it, and they live miraculous lives. And that's what
I'll tell you, I have my life has totally changed. All of you at Hay House, I can't say.
Well, it's a great place to be associated with.
Totally, I'm just soaring, and
we just had our Louise Hay's 80th birthday party.
I heard you say that earlier, and I've got what I want.
There were 500 people there.
80.
Yeah, 80 years old. She looks like she's about 25 years younger than that. She's an angel on this planet, and
I know.
And it was just a wonderful, great evening. I was there with my friend Marianne Williamson. And we danced the whole night, the entire night. Crazy dance. 66 years old. I was doing this. I was out there doing the twist. You remember the twist?
You bet.
Chubby checkers and all of that. I was the king. I was having a great time.
What an event to celebrate. My goodness.
Yeah, and Marianne, of course, is one of the great lights on the planet. I love her enormously.
And so are you. And I'm grateful for you and all of your inspiration that you give us all. I was listening to everything the other folks you were talking with, and I'm going, oh. That's so wonderful. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you for your beautiful call, and check out Being in Balance. I'm doing a thing that
I can't wait. I can't wait to get your book.
You know what you got to do, Terry? You live in where? Portage, Michigan? Where is that?
Portage, Michigan.
Where is that? That's up near the Bay Area.
It's between Chicago and Detroit. Kalamazoo, near Kalamazoo.
Okay, western part of the state.
Yeah.
If there's any possibility of getting to San Francisco on the 22nd and 23rd.
I want to. Oh, my daughter lives out there.
The morning and afternoon of your life, it's going to be an all-day Saturday and all-day Sunday. I'm telling you, it's going to be a life-changing thing already. Last night meditating on this, and the information started coming through me, what to talk about there. It's going to be a phenomenal thing, and it's going to sell out. I mean, it's...
when is it?
It's coming up the 20... It's a Saturday and Sunday. It's the 21st or 20... I think it's the 21st and 22nd of October in San Francisco. It'll be worth it for you to get there and come, I promise you.
I would absolutely. I'll do what I can to try to do that.
Great.
I thank you so much.
Thank you, Terry. What a great call. Great to hear from another Michiganer. I mean, someone from Michigan. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, sweetheart. God bless you.
We've got Heather. She's in Los Angeles, California. Heather, welcome to our program.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can.
Hi, how are you, doctor?
I'm great, thanks. Just Wayne is fine.
Okay, hi, Wayne.
Hi.
Well, I guess my question would be, I'm a law enforcement officer out here, and, you can imagine working those long shifts and trying to balance my personal and professional life. I guess I just maybe want to hear from you what would be the best advice.
When you say balance it, you mean because of the long hours or because of the kinds of things that you're constantly having to deal with? Because police officers deal with a lot of people who are at real low levels of energy and are, oftentimes the people committing a lot of crimes and things like that. And you sometimes get a sour look on humanity when you deal with that on a regular basis.
Definitely. Well, I want to begin by saying I've been very blessed with having a wonderful family that helps me, I think, somewhat keep in balance and have a very positive attitude. But again, like you said, we still have to deal with the negativity of society and just the workplace in general, even police officers themselves, So I guess, that would lead to many more questions, like one, how can you, I guess, just maybe not carry so much of their weight, and learn to balance yourself. And
exactly. And you can get way out of balance with that by having a desire to live in a real peaceful, loving, beautiful world, and then have the habit of constantly running up against forces that believe in quite the opposite and behave in quite the opposite ways. The best thing that I can advise to you, doing the kind of work that you're doing, is one of two things. One, if you've decided that this is what you want to do and you believe that it's important work, and certainly we need lots and lots of good, well-trained, highly competent, skilled, loving, good people in the world of law enforcement. If you've decided that that's what you want to do, then bring as much kindness as you possibly can to it, particularly to the people who are operating at these much lower levels. So, I can tell you from my own family, I have 8 children. And I have one of my children who has merged themselves into that world of drugs, that world of, forging things, that world of writing bad checks and so on. And it's like this is a person who this is my child. This is someone that I love with all my heart. And yet she finds herself in and out of difficulties all of the time. And what she needs more than anything in this world is people who believe in her and who care about her and are willing to forgive her and are willing to send love to her when she finds herself slipping. And as I find myself loving her through this, and she will occasionally, and she just did that not too long ago, ran into somebody in the law enforcement community who took an interest in her, who cared about her, who loved her, who showed her kindness, and that experience made her make a decision that she was going to really go to work on her addictions to these painkillers and things like that have been her concern. It was just one person who, in a uniform, working in a courthouse, who just took it upon themselves to extend that love and were able to turn that person around. This is needed in all facets of our criminal justice system, all of it.
I agree.
From the very worst offenders to just people who are speeding, to people who are jaywalking, to people who are assaulting others. Everything out there, it's a cry for love. It's a cry to be back closer to God. And if you can do that and remind yourself of that, and just extend a little kindness where brutality or anger or hatred or just being fed up just seems to take over. If you can do that, you're doing God's work. If you can't, if you really and truly can't, then you should do something else. You really should do something else.
Well, no, I know that I'm doing what I do, for that, just that reason. I struggled for a long time saying, why am I doing this? This is so not me. I'm putting on this, I call my uniform a costume,
Right, it is a costume.
But then I realize that God wants me here. This is my calling. Will I be doing it forever? No. But right now, this is what I need to do.
So do it 100% with love, as much as you possibly
caring,
can.
right, with patience and compassion, and that's
right.
That's
and you know what? Because people have a fear of police officers in this country. I mean, there's a lot of them that have learned because they wear this costume and because they wear weapons and because that they're sort of frightening kinds of figures. Because we think of Gestapo. We think, with these kinds of, uniforms and marching and shine boots and all of that kind of thing.
Enforcers.
And then when we see somebody who just reaches out and extends themselves or comes over and helps a little kid, find their baseball bat or whatever it might be, very often everybody looks around and they're surprised. And I think these ought to be the people who are extending the greatest amount of kindness and helping our society to be a better society, rather than just people who are looking for lawbreakers and and turning them in and filling out reports.
Right.
That's what I would say to you, my dear.
Well, I love your advice.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I just want to say thank you and God bless you.
Thank you, sweetheart. God bless you, too. I look forward to meeting you in person.
I hope so, too.
Thank you.
Day. Thank you.
Thanks for your beautiful call. Thanks.
Oh, thanks so much, Heather. That was an interesting call, especially with your line of work.
Yes.
All right, Dr. Dyer, we have Frances, and she is from Louisiana, I believe. Frances, welcome to our program.
Hello.
Hi, Frances.
Well, I'm just astounded that I have you on the other end of the phone.
Well, I'm here to talk to you. How are you?
Well,
are you still there? Is Louisiana still there?
Well, Louisiana is still here. We had the opening of the Superdome.
I know you did, and you guys won a big game. I watched that game. What a thrill that was, although you lost one yesterday, but that's okay.
And actually, the Friday before the hurricane, my husband were at the Superdome. We're entertainers, and we were performing in the Superdome, and but we had to evacuate the next day.
Right.
So that has been such... we'll never forget the hurricane.
Yes, I know. But you know what? You have to be careful not to make it a defining moment in your life.
Well,
it's a lot of people will do that with really huge traumatic events before and after. They do it with divorces and things like that. I mean, you know what, that hurricane, I remind, because I have a home in Florida, so there were 4 hurricanes that crisscrossed our state that same year, and knocked out all of the trees and knocked out this, and fences were blown apart, and and I've seen those things, been in the midst of them, and they certainly are terrifying, but they bring out so much goodness in humanity. I mean, so many people, and all of our focus, it seems to me, on the whole Katrina story particularly, has been on what was wrong and what the government didn't do right, and blaming the president and blaming this and that. And, I mean, we forget that this storm was like 160 miles an hour, and it was like it cut across 1,000-mile swath. It's like, I mean, how does anybody know what to do when something as huge and horrific and out of control as that, slams into our homes and into our shores and our schools and our hospitals and our superdomes and so on? None of us are prepared for that kind of thing, and I think our humanity. Did you see acts of humanity and acts of goodness?
So much, so much. That it was overwhelming, just really overwhelming. And
that is almost more overwhelming than the storm, isn't it? That what people will do to save innocent people that they don't even know. There are white people who talk trash against black people, and then something like this happens, and they're in there saving their lives. It's
and just people's resiliency to rebuild, and what it did for me. Now, I have been a student of science of mind for 30 years, but actually Louise Hay was the very first, I suppose, New Thought book that you would call it, that I read, and that
You Can Heal Your Life. That's one of the great books of all time, yes. And
it was in the early...
Science of Mind minister, too.
And yes, and it was in the early 80s, and it was from her that I went to Science of Mind. Actually, Abraham did come to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, about 7 years ago, and I went... And there were so few people, it was wonderful because everybody got to ask a question.
Yeah, and
hardly anybody
knew.
They're wonderful. And they never came back, but that's okay. But I have to tell you, Dr.
I
went
to Baton Rouge and never came back either.
And hey, you two, I have to interrupt because our show is ending.
Is the show over?
That's it.
Thanks, beautiful.
Thanks so much, Frances.
God bless you.
It was great talking to you.
You too. Thank you, Frances.
Bye.
Bye, sweetheart.
All right, Dr. Dyer, again next week. We'll see ya. Thank you very much. I'm Summer McStravick, show's producer. It's been a great show.
Good night, everyone. Good day.
We have Dr. Wayne Dyer with us. We're talking about balancing our lives together. So would you like to just get started?
Sure, I would, yeah. Last week we talked about the first principle, which was, an infinity of forests lies dormant within the dreams of one acorn. And it was the whole idea is that we're very much out of balance between our dreams, what it is that we would like to attract into our lives, and our habits, what we offer up to that. Usually they're way out of balance. And this principle here, I call it in the book, there's 9 principles in this book. I call this when you can't kiss your own ear. And people ask me, what does that mean? I said, well, in order to get your ear kissed, somebody else obviously has to do it. Otherwise, your ear is going to go through a whole lifetime without being kissed. It has to come from outside of you, from someplace else. And this is really finding a way to balance within yourself and within your life how you see yourself with what you really are projecting to the world. The big danger in this is that people have a tendency to think that you're just looking for approval. You're making other people's opinions of you the most important thing in the world. And I've taught so much in so many places, from erroneous zones right up until now, over 30 years, that you don't want to be running your life based upon what other people think of you. And the important distinction here is the difference between wanting approval and wanting to have other people's opinions and getting feedback that can be valuable to you, and needing the approval of others, which means that I collapse or I become immobilized if I don't receive, good and favorable things from other people. So I just dismiss all of that, push all of that out, and it's not about either one of these. This is really about what are you projecting out there into the world. And very often we're way, way out of balance. We have a tendency to say to other people, well, in some sense, what kind of a person are you? You'd say, well, I'm a loving human being. But you're not a loving human being if you are behaving in non-loving ways towards a lot of people out there, particularly people that are there to serve you and so on. I mean, you're not a kind person, for example, if you're kind to your family and nice to your parents and things like that, but you're out there yelling at the waiter and screaming at people when they're in traffic and honking the horns at little old ladies who are terrified and are driving too slow in front of you and so on. So you may have a vision of yourself as being this kind, wonderful person, but what you're projecting out there in many, many places is someone who is not kind, who is not very loving. You may think of yourself, for example, as a joyful person, but you may be hearing people telling you a lot, lighten up, stop taking life so seriously. You're always so upset. You lose your temper so quickly and so on. And you may be going around internally with a vision of yourself as this perfectly calm person when, in fact, other people are constantly telling you that you're full of stress and that you're causing anxiety and you're hard to be around and so on. So the idea behind this one is to take a look at what it is that you are out there projecting into the world, and then to seek out that feedback and to use it in a helpful way. I can give you 2 examples of this in my own life. Life-changing things. There was a time when we had 5 children in 8 years, and we had 3 in about 3.5 years. And so our house was, obviously there was a lot of chaos, there were a lot of babies. Every time I would come home from my writing, I'd have to stop at the drugstore, and I'd have to pick up 3 different kinds of diapers. I'd have to pick up large, extra large, and small, or whatever it was. And I remember I'd get purple, I'd get red, I'd get blue. And, that was how I handled all of that. So while I would be bringing these diapers home and all of the house was in chaos, so we decided at that time to go out and get ourselves someone to help in the house, to cook for us. So we had a cook there. And this guy, his name was Mark, and he would come in there, and he was a chef, and he would have and I started eating these meals that he was making. They were the house smelled with butter and garlic and all of this kind of stuff, and I started eating a lot of that food. And one day, after about a month of doing this, every day coming home and having this wonderful treat of having somebody cook for me, he looked at me and he said, "You're getting a little fat there, don't you think?" And no one had ever said that to me before. And I had actually in the process put on 10 or 15 pounds over a period of a month just from eating these kinds of food and not exercising as much as I should or so on. And I remember his feedback coming to me, and I thought to myself, now who does this guy think he is? He works for me, and he's no right to tell me that. And I remember the next day I decided to really start watching what I eat. I started eating less of it. I started being more conscious about it and so on. And it was like it was the last time that anyone has ever said that to me, because it was a turning point in my life. It was another person's opinion being willing to say something to me. That was one. The other was when I was teaching at the university in Detroit, at Wayne State University, right after I got my doctorate. It was 1971. I was 31 years old. I had my very first class. And one of the things that everybody in the class had to do was make a presentation to the class in these various groups. And this group got up there and they started doing this presentation, and I noticed that there were a lot of snickers going on around in the room and so on. And then people would look at me, and then they'd look at them, and they would laugh, and they didn't know whether to laugh or not. They looked embarrassed. And all of a sudden it hit me that they were doing an impression of me. They were impersonating me. And what they were showing was a person who was a little bit dogmatic, who was fairly loud, who had this little gut, sticking out over his stomach, and they were, doing all of this stuff in a good-natured kind of way. And I remembered how it impacted me. It was like, if I come across that way, so that they can emulate me, and I was a little bit too loud, perhaps, and a little bit too dogmatic, and so on, that it was really a life-changing kind of thing for me. So other people's opinions and what you're projecting to the world, you want to be able to be in balance in the sense that how you would like to project yourself to the world is, in fact, what the world is thinking about what you are projecting. And if it's not, if you call yourself kind but you're nasty to the waiter, if you call yourself stress-free and yet you're jumping up and down at other people, if you're losing your temper quickly and think of yourself as a calm, in-charge person, and you're getting that kind of feedback and information out there, it's good to get yourself back into balance and to be projecting exactly what it is that you would like other people to see you as.
Making your feelings about yourself match what other people are perceiving about you.
Well, yeah, not even
Precisely.
so much always matching, but at least not fooling yourself into telling yourself that you're one kind of a person or that you behave in a certain kind of way, when in fact the opposite. This is another thing, is even about if you ask most people, are you a truthful person, for example, most people would say, why, of course I'm truthful, but then you find themselves, skirting the truth in a lot of ways. You project yourself as something that you don't really want to be projecting yourself as, and in fact, the fact is that it isn't so much how other people are seeing you, is that you're not seeing yourself in an authentic way.
I see. Well, Dr. Dyer, what do you say we go right to our caller, Lisa in St. George, Utah. Lisa, welcome to our program.
Hi, Lisa.
You're live on air, Lisa.
Oh, great.
Hey.
Oh, I'm so excited to be on the phone.
Thank you. Me too.
Have you ever been to St. George, Utah?
I have never been to St. I don't know. Maybe where is St. George?
It's like 45 minutes from Zion National Park.
Oh, because I thought St. George was in the White House, but I think that's the way he thinks anyway. Sorry about that. I couldn't resist.
Beautiful. It's beautiful here. And,
I know it is.
If you ever get a chance to come, you should. It's red rock and gorgeous.
It is beautiful. I've spent a lot of time in Utah. I've spoken at 2 universities there. It's a beautiful state.
Well, I want you to know I've been following just recently all the books you've written. This last summer in June, I had a life-changing experience, kind of what you talked about in one of your books about forgiveness in my own life. And right after that happened, I found your book, 10 Steps to Inner Peace and Success, and read it. And then after that, Power of Intention, read that. After that, Inspiration, the Ultimate Calling. Then I got Getting in the Gap, and I just finished Being in Balance.
What did you think? Because that was a book that just sort of channeled itself through me. I was really, really deeply touched as it wrote itself through me.
Being in Balance?
Yes.
I loved it. Everything, I will tell you, since I started reading your books, and with each book I've kept 3x5 cards with me that I've written your affirmations on.
Right.
And some just little things in the book that just got my attention. And I probably look at those every day.
I
have a whole stack of them.
I do the very same thing. I don't just do it necessarily with my work, but I do it. I start out every single day. There's a book out there about the Tao. I'm writing a book on the Tao right now.
Wait till you finish that one.
Yeah, I know. I'm on number 71 right now. In fact, number 71 is something I was talking about with my daughter this morning, who's been really struggling with some addictions and so on. And it says that you'll never get well until you get sick of being sick.
Yeah,
and it says great sages know that, and they never get sick because they're sick of being sick. And I've been thinking and contemplating that whole concept. And even what you said about forgiveness, it's like you get sick of being angry, don't you? You just
I ended up taking everything that happened to me in my life that I felt like, oh, this happened to me, and made it like, oh, I got to experience that.
Yes, you created it.
Yes, I created it, and look at where I am now.
And who did you have to forgive? What did you do?
Everyone. When I was a small child, I grew up in Los Angeles, California, born and raised.
Uh-huh.
Both my parents have their PhD, and they're very, they worked.
Uh-huh.
But we were raised Mormon. Well, my mom was very trusting, and so I was taken to a babysitter's house that, needless to say, I was taken advantage of.
Right. As a young girl?
Yes, 4, 5, 6. And so we moved from that house, and being raised, of course, in a religious home where you just don't talk about those things. None of those things come up. It was just, I always carried this with me, like this shame and this guilt, and it was like my fault or nobody protected me.
Mm-hmm.
And I attracted that throughout my whole...
You attracted more of the shame, more of the things that you put your attention on because you get what you think about,
right.
whether you want it or not.
And again, I had this experience of forgiveness before I even read your books this summer, but I was ready. I guess it was just, I was ready.
Well, let me just break in a minute. Did you see what happened in Lancaster, Pennsylvania with the Amish people?
Yes.
And where that man lined up the girls and shot 5 of them and so on? And somehow, yes. When we looked at these people and they said, we practice living as Christians, this is our whole philosophy. If we can't forgive the people who harm us, then all of the things that we talk about and all the things that we live are not authentic.
Right.
And they somehow got it right, didn't they? They somehow got these peaceful, loving people that got it right.
They did. And that's what has, literally transformed the last 4 months of my life was that forgiveness.
It is. It did. It totally, completely changed my life. Anybody out there listening?
And not only that, but then I married someone that was a sex addict.
Uh-huh.
And so I got more. It was like I know I did that to get past and to forgive again. It's like all of these things have taught me, and I love this man.
Uh-huh.
Even to this day, we have 4 beautiful kids together. We're best friends now.
Uh-huh.
But
so it's really an act of the heart, isn't it? It's not really necessarily that you have to go send him flowers or anything. It's an act of the heart. And once you create
loving. I don't love everything he does.
Right.
But I love him, the spirit.
You probably don't love everything you do either, but you still have to love yourself.
But and ever since, let me go on, so I got Getting in the Gap, and I do that, and that meditation is just what I needed. When I first started, I was going, this is really hard. Anything. I'm a dancer. I do a lot of creative things, and always at first it's difficult, and I want to really say that to everyone listening, because if you just keep doing it, now I go out and I do it on my own without listening to your voice.
Yeah, that's the meditation you're speaking about. It's a CD in the back of Getting in the Gap, or it's called,
I love it.
It was taught to me by a great teacher who learned it from the people who wrote it back 2,500 years ago back in India.
And all of these things you say resonate, have made sense to me all along. Like when I was a little girl, I remember waking up at night, seeing energy in my room really quickly moving, and being afraid. Just everything, even though I was raised in a home that really was, you can't think that way. No. We're not allowed to see. We're not allowed to have any spiritual guidance other than the prophet. None of those things it never felt true to me. But everything you've said feels true to me. And I will tell you that since I started doing those manifestations, Getting in the Gap, anything I've wanted to do has come up.
That's so wonderful. That's such a confirming. It's a great.
Like I said, I teach dance. I'm an instructor. I've been wanting to go. Just everything I love to do, I get to do. I wanted to go to Jamaica.
Lisa, we're going to have to interrupt you right now.
Well, thank you so much for your call, Lisa. God bless you. What a great call. I really appreciate your confirmation.
Well, Dr. Dyer, I think we have many calls to attend to, so let us get on with Rose in Lexington, Kentucky. Rose, welcome to our program today.
Hello. Thank you so much for taking the call.
Hi, Rose. How are you?
I'm just great. Your discussion just a few minutes ago just made me call because I'm an instructor. I teach horseback riding lessons, and I had an insight where I was taking a new adult around to view the lessons to decide whether or not he wanted to come and ride with us.
Right.
And at the end of the lesson, I went ahead and it was introducing them to the different students, and he expressed his concern about whether or not he wanted sufficient feedback to improve his skills, etc. And the student that was there said, "Oh yeah, she'll give you lots of feedback." And I'm like, "Whoa!" Now she said it in a laughing, fun way, but behind there was some insight, and I'm saying like, "Well, I would never think of myself in that way." I mean,
right. She was saying that you maybe come across a little pushy or
too strong,
a little too strong or too excessive or whatever.
So now that insight is very important because, of course, I'm in a place where I want to improve and grow my business, and also I want to make life. My whole concept of riding is that horses give us life lessons. It's not teaching riding.
My daughter Summer is a horse instructor. I mean, this has been her life, and I know that. And it's very interesting what you're speaking about there, though, because there's really this fine line between not wanting to run your life based upon what other people think of you. Certainly, there's a wonderful book title called "What You Think of Me Is None of My Business." So that you don't want to go around just saying, and then you become a people pleaser, and you're trying to you're trying to please this audience and that audience. It's one of the problems that we have with the authenticity of politicians. Because before one group, they'll say one thing, and before another group, they say something else. They go to another part of the country, they say something else, always trying to be out there pleasing everyone else. So there's that extreme. But then there's the other extreme of people who go through life and behave in certain ways, and they think they're one thing, and they're coming across a very different way, and you want to have that feedback. I think the real crucial thing in all of this is to be is to not let yourself become immobilized regardless. Like if you got some very harsh criticism, and it's funny, was that a young child that said that to you?
No, it was another adult.
It was another adult.
Yeah, and she said it in a nice way. I mean,
but there was also a hidden message in there to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that whatever it is that you are receiving in the way of feedback, you don't become immobilized by it. You just take it, you note it, and you say, you know what, if that's the way I am, I want to be a little bit more cautious. If you're a person who needs to be in front of an audience, actors and actresses often come to me and talk about, it's easy for you to say to be independent of the opinion of others, but my whole livelihood depends upon whether the people out there, like what I'm doing. And if they don't, I need to know that. And I think that keeping that perspective is what we're talking about here.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well,
thank you. I appreciate that. It's really nice. Yeah.
On the activity side, I do feel that it is insightful. And so the action step I'm going to take is to go get your book In Balance and read through it and pick up those pieces that maybe are not in balance.
No, that's great.
And take, put it in perspective. But I sure do thank you for your help, and I'm going to be looking forward to your coming to our neck of the woods.
I'll get out there, Lexington, Kentucky. It's isn't that right across from Cincinnati? Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been at your airport many times.
We go to Cincinnati often for the different Hay House speakers.
Yeah. Well, great. Well, God bless you. Thank you for your wonderful call. I appreciate it. Namaste.
Thanks a lot, Rose, for your call. All right, Dr. Dyer, we're going to go now to Clayton in Orlando, Florida. I wonder if he's going to be at the conference at the end of the month. Clayton, welcome to the program.
Hi, thank you so much. Hi, Dr. Dyer.
Hi, Clayton. How are you, my friend?
I am great. Well, finally in Orlando with the weather subsiding now. It's actually enjoyable down here.
It's beautiful there, from what everyone tells me right now.
Instead of the swamp-like conditions that we usually endure here.
Yes. Enjoy the swamps. Enjoy them.
I know, it's exciting. And the smell is just wonderful. I'm sure you experienced that smell.
I have.
My question for you is, I read hundreds of spiritual texts over my life and came to Bikram yoga at an early part in my life. And I work in television, and I co-host a nationally syndicated television show across the country on in the morning. And the space that I'm at now, it's a place that's really filled with negativity. And it becomes like a fishbowl environment where I sort of tie my self-esteem to that place.
Right.
And whether or not I'm good enough, or whether or not I've succeeded in such a way, and whether or not I can get to that next spot. And they've begun to basically explain that I am not going to be part of their program anymore, and that I'm going to move to a different spot, or I'm going to stay there while they bring these other people in to sort of try out for this particular job and this. And yet I've tied my self-esteem to this place for so long.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to take it to the next level where I become a network anchor and move to the next level and move to a higher level. But I still have that self-doubt, that one little nugget of self-doubt. And I wanted to get your perspective on, with all of the with all of the affirmations and with all the meditations and all of the understanding that, this network job is on its way, and I know it's coming.
Right.
But then it sneaks in that back door. And I think, for whatever reason, I think that's what everyone always worried about, that one little nugget.
Well, the network job and how it plays out, and whether it shows up there or in Lexington, Kentucky, where the lady just talked to you, or whatever it might be, is outside of your control. And it's because those are just the details, and the details of how things work are not really in our hands. First of all, I would suggest that you be in a total, complete state of gratitude for all of this kind of stuff, this feedback that's coming at you, that you may or may not be included, which is bringing all of this doubt to the surface, so that you can deal with this stuff and then just put it to bed completely. In other words, you want to create for yourself an inner environment that is so filled with peace. I was introducing Louise Hay at her 80th birthday party. I was giving a tribute to her at her party last weekend, and I quoted Herman Melville, and he said, he was writing Moby Dick. He said, "For as this appalling ocean surrounds the verdant land, so in the soul of man lies one insular Tahiti, full of peace and joy, but encompassed by all of the horrors of the half-lived life." And I quoted that and said that Louise Hay was one of the people who brought an insular Tahiti to all of us with her monumental works and creating her publishing house and so on, which I'm so proud to be a part of. And I'd like you to know that you have to be able to go, Clayton, to that inner place within yourself, to that insular Tahiti that is filled with peace and joy, totally knowing that this is it's absolutely perfect for you, projecting yourself out there in this loving and peaceful a way, being independent of the opinions of everybody else out there who thinks you should or shouldn't be doing it in a certain way, being totally, completely at peace. You do yoga. I would recommend that you read the Tao a little bit each day, read the Tao Te Ching, find out how important it is to be a non-interferer, to be totally at peace, to get more by doing less, to be free from trying to control things outside of yourself that are all unfolding perfectly, just to be at in that peaceful place, and then to be grateful for everything that comes along, whether it's a network job or whatever it is, because if you have that inner peace, that insular Tahiti, that place of joy within your heart, it won't make any difference to you whether you're on a network or whether you're not, because the network thing is really about ego. It's just about more. It's about more people watching you and all of that. And if you can just free yourself from that external kind of thing and just allow yourself to be the greatness that you came here to be, it'll all unfold perfectly. That's my advice. I don't know if it helps or not.
No, that's wonderful. Thank you.
Thanks, Clayton. God bless you.
All right, we've got Melina, and this is an update call. And sometimes I like to check back, give a caller a couple minutes because I like to get updated on what the advice is you've given and how it's playing out in their lives. So, Melina from Sherman Oaks, California, can you give us a brief update of how things are going for you?
Sure. Hi, Wade.
Hi, Melina.
How are you doing?
Good.
Good. Okay, I asked you a question at the Pasadena event with Byron Katie about, advice on how to show my son that the violent video games he likes, what to do. So you told me to go ahead and do the muscle testing.
Yeah, do the
yes. Right. So I came home that night.
Just for everyone's edification out there, it's that energy is in everything, and if you're doing something, if you're watching something violent, or if you're listening to violent music or whatever, and you muscle test it, that is, you hold that in your hand and test yourself, that it will actually show you whether you're strengthened or weakened by it, and violence almost always shows it weakens us. Go ahead, what happened?
Okay, I came home that evening, I told my children, I talked about you to Dr. Dyer, and I told my son, what I had talked about, so he said, okay, let's do it. He looks around, and I just shown them Unstoppable Me, your new children's book that I brought home for them. He said, let's use this as the positive thing, and we tested one of his video games, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and they each did it, and we did it back and forth time and time again with Unstoppable Me held up against their heart. They were strong. I wasn't able to push their arm down. With the violent video games, they went weak. So I didn't know how he would process that or if he would care or whatever, but within, seconds, he said, all right, okay, I'm going to get my video games together. He took out all his video games. He went through which ones were violent, which ones were not. He sorted them into 2 piles and said, okay, these are going to go. My 10-year-old son, and I was so proud of him. I really didn't know if he would. There's one game, though, the Star Wars game, that he didn't want to give up yet, so he's still holding on to that. And he actually was trying to tell my 6-year-old daughter, she had kind of grown attached to this Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. He said, Jasmine, it's weakening us, and it's time to let it go.
Wow. Oh, my goodness. I love this call. Thank you, Summer, for taking this call.
Sure.
That's so phenomenal. I mean, it's like, and people don't understand it, because I was telling the story of how my son was listening to a CD that had violence and profanity in it, and I had him bring it over, and I told him to hold bananas, these organic bananas, next to his heart, and he would hold his arm out, and the muscle test. You can read about all of this in a book called Power versus Force. You can get it through Hay House, by the way. It explains how to do all of that.
By Dr. David Hawkins.
David Hawkins, right. So I would bring him over. My Strongs, he was 16 or 17 at the time, big, strong, strapping, 6'1" kid. And when I put the bananas on there, I couldn't budge his arm. But then when he held the CD in his hand, just the actual CD in his hand, he went weak. His arm went right down. And a lot of people find that difficult to grasp. But energy is in everything, and kinesiology teaches us how to go about doing that. But to have your 10-year-old son have that kind of an impact and insight, so you could have lectured at him 1,000 times, Melina, and it never would have reached him. But for him to experience that, yeah.
Right. It was beautiful, and I just, you know.
Oh, thank you for that update. That is so wonderful. It's a good lesson for everybody out there. Anything, and it's, again, a part of, when I talk about in being in balance, and that third, you can't kiss your own ear. One of the things I talk about is that if you think of yourself as a loving person, but you are constantly immersing yourself in violent movies and chase scenes and things that have guns and lots of killing and so on, that's the opposite of love. And it's like you really want to take a look at whether or not you are using this as an excuse for having things come into your heart and into your life that are not loving at all. So you may not be nearly as loving as you think you are. Right. Even when you read the newspaper, like this morning, I saw a headline in the paper that talked about the Americans had killed 30 what they called insurgents along with the Iraqis, and I thought, oh my goodness, 30 dead people, all of whom are just believing in what they believe in. You know, it's like you can't be a loving person, and in the Tao it says that all battles, no matter whether you are on the right side or the wrong side, all of them should be treated as a funeral, that there's nothing to celebrate when people end up doing something violent to each other. Thank you, darling, for that wonderful call. I really love it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Melina. That was wonderful. So many times parents do call in wanting to know advice for kids. That was a great one, I think. Everyone can apply that.
I tell people all the time, if you've got kids who are doing video games, just do that with them. Do the muscle testing with them and let them see for their own eyes. And boy, what a perfect example of that. I'm glad we have that on the radio so people can listen to it.
All right. We've got time for one more caller. We've got Dana from Bronx, New York. Dana, welcome to our program today.
Hi, Dr. Dyer. Good evening. How are you?
Hi, Dana. How are things in the Bronx? Are you at the zoo?
Not too far from the zoo. I'm actually more closer to Manhattan, actually. But weather is fine here in the Big Apple, and all is well.
Good.
I know you're wrapping up on the show, so I'll make this brief. For most of my adult life, I've been working in the corporate sector, corporate environment, but I really want to transition into my own home business. But I'm scared to death, knowing that I may have to sacrifice a salary, at least if I go into my own business, and benefits. And I really want to make the transition, but there's something really preventing me from moving forward, aside from the fear. And I was wondering if there are any words of wisdom you can share with me about.
What is the business you want to start in your own home?
It's like more of a holistic practice in which I do some massage therapy.
Yeah, see, I just sensed it in you. What is your first name?
Dana.
Dana, I sensed that the minute that you started talking, I said, this is the person who has love to give away. There's something in your voice. There's an aura in you. I'm not psychic. I don't do readings like Sylvia and all that. But I felt very deeply and profoundly that you have an enormous amount of just loving kindness to give away. Even the way you just talked about the Bronx and where you are and so on. That should be enough information for you to have to know that you're on the right path and that it will work. And that the biggest fear that you have is that you won't have the salary. But look beyond that and ask yourself, what is it that I'm really afraid? Am I afraid I'm not going to be able to feed myself or to pay my rent? And then take a look at, how old are you?
I'll be 39 next week.
So in 39 years, have you ever had any time in your adult life when you haven't been able to feed yourself or take care of and be responsible for yourself? And the answer to that, I'm already sure, is that you've always been able to handle it. So there's no reason for you to look back with anything other than total confidence that you'll be able to continue doing that, whether or not a salary is coming or whether it's coming from your own business. But you have great love to give away. That's what you have to give away. You
oh, my goodness. And I thank you for that, Dr. Dyer. In actuality, okay, well, I'll definitely...
Where are you from? Where are you originally from?
New York City.
From New York City.
New York City, born and raised.
You have there's something in you that do you feel that as well? Do you feel what I'm describing here? Do you feel like there's something that's inside of you that has to escape, wants to serve, but you're holding it back?
For ages. Yeah. For ages, especially over the past 2 years. In a sense, wanting this to grow, wanting my abilities to grow, to shed some light on it, to accentuate what I have and be able to share that with other people. So, and I can't do it in a stuffy corporate environment. I got to go out.
You'd be surprised. I know. I was driving down the Long Island Expressway. You've probably been on it. I was living out in Huntington, New York, and I was teaching at St. John's University.
Oh.
And I had a position. I was the star there. It was 1971, and right up till 1975, I got promoted. I had tenure, which is like a guaranteed job for the rest of my life, a guaranteed paycheck for the rest of my life. And something happened to me on the Long Island Expressway, and I drove in, and I went into the dean's office. Her name was Sarah Fassenmeyer, and I told her I had to resign. I was writing Your Erroneous Zones, and that I was going to go out and I was going to be on my own. I was going to have to earn my own paycheck. I was going to have to figure out how to get my health care insurance covered and do all of that. And I was scared, but you know what? I made more money in the first year than I had made the previous 30 years of my life.
That gives me something to go by. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Dana, for your call. Gotta let you go.
To watch another amazing Wayne Dyer video, check it out right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
It's always good to hear from anyone, to tell you the truth, when you think of the alternatives. Yeah, no, it's a great day.
That's true.
I already did an hour swim, and I've got this new thing. My kids for Father's Day all chipped in.